Welcome back to TRTN and welcome to the Circuit of the Americas, ladies and gents, here for round 5 of season 16 of the Australian Xbox Racing League Championships. I am Regan Clark, and today we start our broadcast on a new schedule here for round 5 of the championship. As the first super sprint of season 16, we see not only 2 free practice sessions, but also 2 qualifyings interceded by 2 25 minutes races, I should say. Half points on grabs here, as opposed to the 30 points of finishing first in one of these. It's actually 15 points. So drivers playing their jokers today have the opportunity to gain upwards of 60 points at the end of race 6 and at the end of round 5. And the event that lays as this battleground for this exciting chapter of season 16 is the Circuit of the Americas. Situated near the city of Austin, Texas, the Circuit of the Americas is by many a stretch one of the new kids on the block. First introduced in 2012, mistakenly there says 2010. It is the newest track on ACC, having been originally constructed as the de facto venue of the United States Grand Prix. Since its inception, it's hosted events for the World Endurance Championships, for the IndyCar Series, and for the Xfinity NASCAR Cup Series, among several others. Often described as a chimera of various European tracks, COTA offers a solid mixture of tough, challenging switchback corners and long, wide straights, the longest of which you can see in the sort of top of that track map is 3/4 of a mile long, a serious overtaking zone to be reckoned with here. And this is more than enough to keep drivers on their toes through all 3.4 miles and a whopping 20 corners of FIA Grade 1. And, rather excitingly, for the first time here on TRTN, we're excited to debut our newest feature. In collaboration with one of the teams on the grid, Nova Sports, we can now bring to you a comprehensive rundown of the track brought to us courtesy of the number 211 Ferrari of Sly Visio. As we start off our run here then, it's going to be a very long uphill run down towards turn 1. We saw this wreak absolute chaos in Formula 1 throughout the seasons. It'll be no doubt the same story here for these GT cars, a little bit smaller, but there's still going to be plenty of chaos. They're very tight at the apex of turn 1, fully uphill. A blind crest brings us down into the long sweeping right-hander of turn 2, into a section of the track often compared to Silverstone's Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. Here it's the run of turn 3 through to turn 6. And track limits is going to be a huge problem in this opening sector. It is very, very tough to nail that line in, let alone to think about any of the drivers that could also be sharing that line through the course of qualifying and the later race. Now out through turn 8, up to the kicker at turn 9 here. And the crest taking us down into the blind sharp left-hander at turn 10. Very easy to run the inside curbs and ruin a very good lap time out of that. Now into turn 11 and starting our run down that infamous 3/4 mile back straight. And if we were to take a look at the metrics for Ferrari's lineup, their GT3 offering will do 161 miles an hour, their hypercar will do 200, and their Formula 1 offerings will do 206 down the Austin speed trap. And that's going to culminate at turn 12 here. The incredibly sharp left-hander, almost an acute hairpin left, is going to make a very interesting overtaking zone for our drivers in these very short form high action races today. That's going to bring us directly into the switchback of turn 13 and 14. A squared off hairpin right brings us into the parabolic open hairpin left, almost Bahrain-esque, of turn 15 and 16. And that's going to bring us into the final sector of the track. You can see there's plenty of corner variety, and often one that people tend to describe as a touch muddled. And now through turn 18 and 19, this sort of tapered off fast right-hander reminiscent of, say, Pouon, but in the other direction. Now going through turn 19 and down towards turn 20 to finish off what is a comprehensive run-through of this track. And now that we're back here, we can begin our first line of interviews. Joining us today, 2 drivers from the Nova Sports team, that being Yaldara and Sly Visio. Gentlemen, welcome.
Hello.
G'day.
Now, I wanted to start off with Yaldara. You're coming off your lowest points finish this season with that last week's result in Laguna Seca, to no fault of your own, dreaded conditions for all competing in that, but nonetheless you remain up in a confident P6 in the championship. Both you and teammate Evil are nearly at level pegging with only 3 points to spare. Moreover, the Novasport team is a firm P3 tie with Mustlaw's Dr. Krieger and Mustard27 in the Sir Jack Brabham Teams Championship. With that in mind, what's it been like this season, effectively having to manage 2 championships at once? It's certainly a unique perspective given the breadth of Novasport's presence and operation in Season 16.
Yeah, no, it's definitely been stressful trying to manage all the Novasport team stuff, but it's also been fun. And it's quite rewarding to sort of get the quite rewarding in terms of when we get the results and when they come through and we finally see the names. Like, we've got Sly at the moment, almost a second clear at the top in the practice session. Like, it's quite rewarding when I see the work that I've put in come back with that. In terms of my own results, it's been not the greatest couple of weeks. At the Nürburgring GP track, made my own mistake and just ran wide, oversteered through a corner and lost it into the barriers and tried to recover from that. And then last week as well, I will say, I did get taken out at turn 1, but there was also a little bit of my own fault. I boxed for slicks a bit embarrassingly, trying to make an undercut. But nah, we fight back. It's been good.
And what's more, how do you expect today's races to pan out? Of course, a unique event in and of itself, the SuperSprint. Very short form action, not a lot of room for error, but most importantly, there are no restrictions on pit time or even a pit strategy at all. No restrictions on having to come in and getting any tyres, getting any fuel. The only thing you'd ever need to be in the pits for is repairs. So with that in mind, and on what is looking like a very nice, bright and sunny day here in Austin, Texas, very nice and dry conditions, a far cry of what we saw last Wednesday in Laguna Seca. What is going to be the sort of strategy going forward for you guys? Is it going to be a case where it is pedal to the metal, full throttle going into this event? Certainly looking like the conditions for it.
Yeah, pretty much just going to be send it as hard as you can, especially in the first or second race. Just going to be absolutely go for it. You've got to, with the heat of the first race being sort of close to midday, you've got to be a bit conscious of your tyre temps, a bit conscious of all of those sort of things, and just manage your race as much as it is only 25 minutes and no pit stops. You still have to manage the tyres just a little bit to make sure you don't burn yourself towards the end of the race.
And anyone or anything that you personally are keeping an eye out for as you head down into turn 1 today?
Oh, it's going to be no one specifically, but it is going to be very very terrifying to turn 1, both races. Just got to be aware of those who are doing dive bombs. Hopefully there's nothing too silly. But yeah, just being aware of who might be a little bit too ambitious setting it up the inside. The way the track tightens from as wide as it is down into sort of 1 or 2 car line at turn 1's going to be a nightmare.
All right, well, all the best of luck to you, Yaldar, on today. It's looking to be quite an exciting event from all involved up in the pro category. And best of luck down into race 1 and race 2. We'll speak to you hopefully later on at the season finale.
Yeah, thanks, mate. I'll catch you around. Have a good one.
And you, take care. Now, moving on to our next guest is Sly Vicio. Now, Sly, it's been some time since we last saw you. Championship runner-up in Season 15. Last time we had the opportunity to speak with you was back in Bathurst. And do you reckon this championship for you, it's been a very troubled first half there with some of those DNFs and out of the points there in the opening 2 rounds. Do you think now that for the championship for you, your outlook is going to be, I'm aiming at a podium finish in say the pro standings in the Platinum Cup? Is that going to be your goal by the end of Season 16? Of course, we've still got just over half a season here with this event being the midway.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a disappointing start to the season. Not at all where I want to be. But yeah, as you said, I am hoping to finish at least in the top 3. It's just going to be a bit of an upwards fight, if I'm honest.
And you've proven thus far that you can challenge Valet on your day, and Do you think you could expect to see that sort of performance arise again today here in the Circuit of the Americas?
Um, I'm not too sure. I haven't been able to compare pace all that much. I know my pace is fairly decent around here. I just need to wait and see what Valet can do. I mean, he's always been a bit of a, speed demon. So yeah. But I'm hoping I can challenge him as I did at the Nürburgring.
And as we mentioned with Yaldara, of course, open strategy today. No mandated pit stops, no mandated fuel or tyres. So what's going to be the sort of motive going forward? Obviously, you've got the Ferrari to work with here, which is arguably one of the best machines for its longevity. Is it going to be a case where you're going to give it 100% all through race 1 and race 2? Is that going to be the motive going forward?
Yeah, it's gonna be very lick the stamp and send it. Just full throttle all the way. I'm not gonna bother trying to manage fuel or tires. I know my machine. It's just trying to see if it can live with what I'm asking of it.
All right, well, all the best of luck to you today, Sly. Hopefully we'll speak to you towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I look forward to talking to you again.
All right, best of luck. Take care.
You too.
And so that was our interviews for FP1. Do stick around because FP2, we've got our championship contenders in the Plat Cup. Oh lol, it's Chris and Valet on for a chat as well as we watch at the moment with TK Zervinks down in the Pro-Am category, number 46. Here with the Nova Sport family of teams, MBU, Novus Ludo and Nova Sport. And taking a wider look at our championship standings now, if we look in, say, the category that Zervinks is competing in right now, the Pro-Am standings, the AXRL Gold Cup, it is an interesting state of affairs here. Toothless leads with 77 points. Evil in second with 68. Dr. Krieger, 1 point behind him in third position. TK Zervinks all the way down in sixth behind 03 Hudson and Osmad. So it's been a bit of a troubled season for Zervinks, but his teammates at Nova Sport, that being 03 Hudson and Evil, are definitely reveling in what has definitely been a stronger season down in the Pro-Ams. Looking elsewhere into the AM category, an interesting bit of news crossed my desk this morning as Will Smith, the championship leader at this very moment for the AXRL Silver Cup, has announced his withdrawal from competition for the foreseeable future of this season, leading at the moment with just around 15 points ahead of the number 8 Ford Mustang of Wolfdan. Now, if we can find Wolfdan on track here at the moment, it is really heaven sent that this has come through. That 15-point gap will fall apart on this very day. It's going to net him the championship lead on the grounds that we can find him. Oh, just as we've cut across there, bit of a spin-off there. That's for TK Zervinks down at turn 19. He's done quite well there to just keep it out of the wall. No major damages. He'll be able to just pick himself up by his bootstraps and keep moving by the looks of it. If we try and find Wolfdan here, we did see him. He's in the pit lanes at the moment, so sadly won't be able to get to see him moving around. We'll stay on board then with Dr. Krieger, who, as we mentioned in the Pro-Am Championship, is definitely up there. Third at the moment by only a single point to the second place car of Evil. So this Porsche is doing God's honest work here. He's definitely struggling on a track like this. The 3-2-1 has got a long way to go before the end of the season, but it's looking very lively down in the lower categories. If we're to take a look at the Platinum Cup, of course, Valet leads by a long margin here. We're looking north of 50, or actually just south, I should say, of a 50 points advantage in the favour of Valet. Actually, no, it is north. My maths is terrible today. So Valet is just over 50 points ahead of Ololit's Chris. Concrete Ivy makes third by 9 points. He's joint third with Toothless. As a matter of fact, we can load up over the screen here our top 10 in that Platinum Cup standings. And you can see past Valet, it gets very tight here. 9 points difference between second and third. Third and fourth joint on points at 70. 1 point behind them is the fifth place car of Evil. Yaldara is only 3 points behind him in sixth position. Slyvicio with 54 points finds himself only 12 points behind his teammates. Ricky in 8th with 51 points. 9th for Dr. Krieger. Also joint on points with Ricky. 51 points there, rounding out the top 10. 03 Hudson with 47 points so far in the championship. And it's a high points yield round here for anyone using the play that Joker effectively. I think out on track at the moment we can actually talk about one of the drivers that we know for certain is using theirs today as he's running that special livery that he spoke about for some time now. And this is the number 27 of Ricky. You can see that red J there on his name indicates that he's using a Joker for this round. That means double points on offer. If Ricky can land 2 wins in a row, it'll be 60 points coming out of round 5. The Aston Martin now clad in the colours of Fernando Alonso's championship-winning Renault R25 and R26 Formula 1 cars is actually doing a remarkable job. I was half expecting the Aston to be among the cars that struggle on this track. Now, it is a bit on the loftier side as far as GT3s go, lacks the manoeuvrability of its mid-engine compatriots from Ferrari and McLaren, but it's definitely got a lot of the low-down grunt that the AMG platforms bring to the table. I mean, case in point, uses the exact same engine. Twin turbocharged AMG V8 is going to be sending north of 500 down range here as we get down towards turn 20 to cap off what is his lap at the moment in free practice. And with just under 3 minutes left to go, we're going to quick fire some of our news segments as we watch here with Ricky as he gets towards the line. Currently second fastest in the session. Last lap was a 2:07.295, but what we believe may have been an invalidated lap time, as you can see in the top left, it is not counted towards his best lap. We ought to take a look at least some market prediction as who's going to be fastest on track at the moment, as Valet just intercepts the time of Ricky to put himself second. Sly continues to lead with a 2:06.8. Valet 2 tenths behind, Ricky 5 tenths behind, TK Zervink's nearly 2 seconds behind. So looking at it at the moment, now I don't want to call these things too early. I have known to be calling these things a little bit prematurely. But this could very well be a 3-horse race between Valet, Ricky and Sly Visio. 3 cars up in the pro category. 3 different cars, mind you, as well. McLaren v Aston v Ferrari. I, for one, thoroughly look forward to the idea. So as we keep the timing charts up on our left-hand side here, as we get towards the end of free practice 1, we'll just quickly hop on the news here. In automotive news, of course, I have no doubt that a lot of you have seen Jaguar's controversial rebrand in what has been considered by many in the automotive journalist world as somewhat of a cultural assassination of the brand. They're set to reveal their car, I believe, in a few days' time at the Miami Art Week on the 2nd of December. And it's been definitely a bit of a rough ride for Jaguar. Not really sure how they're going to climb out of this one. In Formula 1 news, we have a double whammy of big news. Max Verstappen claims his 4th consecutive championship, equaling the total number of championships with such legendary drivers as Sebastian Vettel and Ayrton Senna. And also in Formula 1 news, GM Cadillac is confirmed to become the 11th entry team for 2026. This marks the first time in what is going to be 10 years of competition since we've last seen 11 teams line up on the Formula 1 grid. It does leave the future of somewhat rivaling team Andretti Cadillac up in dismay at the moment, completely up in the air as to where they're going to be going by 2030. There are rumours aloft over the engine provider for GM Cadillac. Obviously, with Cadillac being first in line until they can produce an engine, rumours are aloft that they may potentially borrow Ferrari powertrains until 2028. Elsewhere in the world of motorsports, in the WRC, Thierry Neuville, after an explosive finale at Rally Japan, secures enough points to claim his first ever World Rally Championship title against teammate Ott Tanak. It was a very tough round in Rally Japan for the Hyundai Shell Mobis team, as Tanak's crash out at stage 17 only an hour before the end of the rally at stage 21 drew a bitter end to their constructors' hopes, Toyota's Sebastian Ogier and Elfyn Evans contributing in large part to their final push to a championship title in the constructors. Elfyn Evans would win in Rally Japan, with Neuville enough points to secure his bid for 2024. In British touring car news, Max Hall, a rookie 17 years of age, has been greenlit for a 2025 entry drive in the Privateers Championship. He looks to be making the lineup in the Duckham's car, previously driven by Daryl De Leon. In V8 Supercars news, Will Brown has been crowned the 2024 Supercars champion after the Adelaide 500. Him and teammate Brock Feeney in the Red Bull Ampol Chevrolets have proven themselves a dominant force to be reckoned with, a 1-2 in the drivers and an overall dominant lead of the team's championship. Now, as we wrap up here, we're going to have to try and get our next set of guests in pronto here. We've got the championship rivals, as it were, of Ololets, Chris, and Valet. We're going to invite them into the call and see if they're ready to chat here at the start of FP2. Now, if we consult our schedule yet again, you'll see that the second practice session coincides with the second race at night time here. So our first night practice coming in, as I believe Valet is just about to join the call now and is currently on mute. Hopefully we'll get to chat with him in just a moment whilst we wait for Chris's arrival as well. There, as we come to the end of free practice, you can see all of our drivers in the paddock there getting ready for night practice. And so now we've got Valet on the call with us here, the championship leader in the Platinum Cup. Valet, welcome to the commentary box. Is his microphone working? I don't believe his microphone is working there. There might be a little bit of a technical problem. Well, that is a bit confusing there. We're going to quickly try and fix that issue. You watch on board with Ricky at the moment. He makes his way out of the pit lane to start the next leg of free practice. Oh, that's my apologies there. I think we've figured out the source of our problem. Just one moment, ladies and gents. Our audio appears to be playing up a little bit. We stay on board with Ricky. He makes his way down towards turns 10 and 11 here. We've also managed to get Chris now in the call as well. We just had a few issues trying to get connectivity to work with Valet. But there we go. Now the audio is working. Apologies about that, gents. Of course, that is the wonders of using Discord. I cannot believe TeamSpeak lost to this. Nonetheless, pleasure to have both of you on for FP2. Valet, you've been the man to beat this season. After quite the hiatus from competition, it's been astonishing to watch someone take to the competitive state of the grid at the moment and take such a heavy swing at it here in AXRL. Obviously your reputation here precedes you, and with the recent reduction of your ballast down 5 kilograms from 40 to 35 and your air restricted down to 15%, do you think that on a track that benefits such high engine torque and power that you're capable of managing the deficit of power today?
It's going to be a very good question. I think the Ferraris are going to be a little bit too good on the straights, I reckon. Especially with me being put back up to 40 kilograms and 20% restrictor for the rest of the season. But no, Sly's a very quick driver. He can maximise the most out of that Ferrari, and I'll be trying to just get the better of him in quali and see what we can produce in the race.
And with competition still incredibly lively this season and pressured on a much shorter twin set of races, what could we come to expect out of you today?
Just the usual Valet style. We get in the mentality, get the playlist going, and we just send it our way.
It's always a pleasure. Best of luck to you. On to Chris
Thank you very
now.
much.
Chris, it's been a strong season for you so far as well. Second in the Platinum Cup at the moment with a Joker yet to play. What is going to be the crack for you going into race 5 and 6 of this championship?
I'm gonna say survival. COTA is not a track that I get along with well. Usually, I only get success here using some contra strategies. Given it's a super sprint, no strategies in play, so it's just going to be hot lap after hot lap. And I've got a lot of rivals around me that I think are going to have the jump on me.
And the Aston has proven itself a strong contender so far. And with an open intake unlike the restrictor on the McLaren of Valet, do you reckon you're going to be able to give him a run for his money down that back straight?
If I find myself close to him on the back straight, certainly I'll give him a run. But it's a matter of me being there in the first place. Again, I think that the Aston is probably going to be in the better hands of a driver like Ricky. He seems to excel on these American tracks, especially COTA. Yeah, the track just doesn't seem to agree with me, even though the car seems to want to go that way. So if I'm lucky enough to find myself there, I'll definitely take advantage.
And anyone in particular you're keeping an eye out for and you reckon is going to cause a little bit of mayhem coming into this race today?
I'll probably have my eye on Sly and Ricky. I expect those two to be probably up in the top three. In the rest of the grid, the Pro-Ams are very, very competitive and very, very quick this season. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see a Pro-Am in the top three at the end of the race, especially Toothless with that Ferrari. He has been strong all season, so potentially with the upset being that he's in the Ferrari.
All the best of luck to you today. It's looking very fierce out there. If FP1 was anything to go off of. And of course, still 2 qualifying sessions and 2 race sessions ahead of us.
Thank you.
All the best. Take care. That concludes our interview stage here for the for the 5th round, I should say, of this championship. That concludes FP1 and FP2's interview block. Now, I want to discuss something that I took note of last night as I was writing up the script for this event. And that is the Driver of the Day votes. Now, I've took the liberty of compiling all of the Driver of the Day votes together into form what I have called the TRTN Driver of the Season Award. And these count all of the votes to this person over the course of the last 4 events. So coming in around 5 in the Pro category, Valet leads with 17 of the votes. Ricky joint second with Ololits Chris with 14 votes, respectively. Slyvisio in provisional 4th, with 9 overall votes ahead of Yaldara with 6 overall votes for Driver of the Season, and Concrete Ivy with 4 overall votes. Further down in the Pro-Am category, it's a completely different state of affairs. Toothless has completely dominated all notion of the Driver of the Day votes with 26 overall votes to his name so far this season. Evil with 10, TK Zervings in 3rd with 7th, 03 Hudson with 6, Dr. Krieger and S. Shamian joint 5th with 2 overall votes, and Wooly with 1. Down in the AM category, Wolfdan has 26 of the overall votes ahead of Wheel Smith with 22, Snippy with 10, Mustard 27 with 4, Redline with 3, Race for Life 81 with 2, and Cam with 1. An interesting little metric to bring up, and we'll bring up again the state of affairs in the Sir Jack Brabham Teams Championship, just because it is one of the closest overall fights of the championship at the moment. Only 19 points separate the industry leaders of I'm Snippy and Valet in the Shanghai Shaggers Racing McLaren duo from out of their minds as Wolfdan and Toothless. So you can find here, this is the man we just interviewed then in that block. This is the number 88, looking to hunt down that number 1 now. Tandersport, the season 15 champion, has been a no-show effectively all season. That's definitely left the number 1 up for grabs now, and currently looking to hunt down his former crown is Valet. He's been exceptionally fast over the course of this season, securing that win with a Joker for 60 points in the Platinum Cup Championship. That's definitely done a big hit for Shanghai Shaggers Racing's run of the Sir Jack Brabham Teams Championship standings. Right now, as we head into the sort of night quarter here. We'll stay on board with Valet for what is going to be his first flying lap of free practice too. So as we saw with that run with Slyvisio, it is an uphill run down towards turn 1. I know the drivers are going to be min-maxing their space available to them on track here as they head down into turn 1, keeping very, very far right of the track to swing it in at the apex. Now, feasibly, you could fit 3 to 4 cars into the run into turn 1. There is no guarantee you'll be able to see all 4 of them make their way out. And that's what I was saying to them before this event started. I do have the sort of notion in the back of my mind we'll definitely see 3 to maybe 4 drivers go wide down into turn 1 on that opening lap. Whether or not we can see that as a consistent theme going into the rest of this event is completely up in the air. Of course, looking back at that schedule again, these are much, much shorter races than what we're used to. 25 minutes, so not a lot of room for error and not a lot of time for drivers to split away. Often is that the curse of longer form endurance racing where everyone settles into a rhythm and it becomes more about the marathon, not about the sprint. Other way around here, this is all pedal to the metal racing. For Valet at the moment, we can see 150 miles per hour. Whereabouts does he top out here? 155, 156, 161 miles per hour there for the McLaren 720S. We saw out of the run of Slyvisio with that metric on screen, it was 161 was the top end of the 296. The McLaren, even with a restrictor in play, Valet is able to match that. Absolute word for word here. 161 on the dot for the number 88. Trying to eye here the next driver to make their way down this back straight. If we quickly scroll through, it's the number 67 Ford Mustang of Cam down in the AM category. You see 150 broken there. Now heading towards the final part of this straight. 166 miles per hour. So that's a new fastest speed there for GT3 down this back straight. We'll see what the rest of the field is going to be looking like here. A little bit further back, we've got the number 42 and the number 888, the Ferrari and the Honda of Adeptlusa and S Shamian. So we see here the Honda scratching at 160 miles an hour before he hits the brakes there. So 160 for Honda, 161 for Ferrari and McLaren, but 166 for Ford. That is quite remarkable here. This is Saxey in the number 4 Aston Martin making his way down the straight. This is actually, I believe, his first run of the season in the V8 Vantage, so heading down in the slipstream of Kisami CV8, the number 7 down in the AM category there for Ferrari. The Aston tops out at 164 miles per hour, so just behind Ford there, but phenomenal straight line speed on display here. V8s really do seem to be the ones to be when it comes to the straight line here at the Circuit of the Americas. This is Ololitz Chris making his way down towards turns 15 and 16. Actually through 17 and 18 now, so towards the end of this lap here. We'll stay on board with Chris. Now, he remained somewhat obdurate of his ability on this track. Like he said, he doesn't really get along with COTA, but we'll see exactly where those faults start to appear for him, if they appear at all. Maybe it could just be a case of doubting one's own ability going into a race such as this. So now heading towards the line to what I believe is either start or finish a lap. It's not registering what just yet. I think we are starting off a lap. He's 25th at the moment of 26 available positions. Looking on the wider scale of things, Valet leads the times with a 206.002, 1.5 seconds ahead of Cervinx, and Yaldara makes third by 2.086 seconds. The two drivers we are waiting to see times out of. Ricky is currently in the pit lane. We saw him up in the top 3 at the end of FP1. We're also waiting to see a remarkable time out of Slyvisio, currently out on track, making his way down towards turn 10. So looking around to see where our next times are coming from here. Sorry, this is Ido, one of the new drivers here in season 16, making his way towards the line. In the number 253 Ford Mustang, he's had to write off that lap at his 4.6 seconds off the bar here in the AM category. Still plenty of time for warming up though for these drivers. 11.5 minutes going before we get on to the first of our qualifying sessions. Bringing that schedule back up, it'll be qualifying 1, then race 1, then into qualifying 2 and race 2. Hopefully during qualifying 2 we'll be able to get in contact and have a chat with the race winner of race 1. So that will be quite an exciting opportunity. That's if they're up for a chat at the moment. Of course, with how little time there is in that latter quarter of the race, it is going to be pretty much all hands on deck, I'd say. Getting a word out of them might be tough. So we go back on board at the moment with Slyvis here as he just makes his way down towards turn 19 to cap off this current lap. It still registers that he's on a flying lap here. And it reads blue, so that is not going to be a valid lap for Slyvisio. The 211 makes his way to the line then, currently 17th. And oh, that did count. It did count. So the game being a little bit tricky here today. I mean, wouldn't be an ACC stream without the game blatantly lying to my face. But the 211, 7/10 of a second from the fastest time. That's already a good precedent here for the youngster. Around the field as well, it is a very wide presence of Novasport machinery here. Sly making second, TK Zervinks making third, Yaldara making fourth, Cthulhu making fifth. That's 4 Novasport group cars in a row there, with Shamian backing them up there in 6th position. Shamian, I should add as well, who's competing in the 888 Ferrari from the Pro-Am category. If we can find him here, he's actually one of 3 drivers to be competing using... Oh, there we have it. If the graphic wouldn't malfunction on me today, is one of a few drivers, 3 in particular, to be using jokers in this race. Now, to explain what a joker is, for those of you tuning in for the first time here, a joker is a single-use sort of perk of sorts in this series. Drivers can claim a joker once per season on 1 round, and it doubles their points yield at the end of this race. So, say, for example, if Shamian was to have an absolute blinder of a qualifying performance and win race 1, instead of the 15 points you'd expect to get for a Super Sprint race win, it would be 30. And that carries across both races here in the Super Sprint, meaning upwards of 60 points for 2 race wins, counting just as much as any other event's race win on a joker. It's this way of balancing out the points yield instead of giving you 120 points as if it were to go by the normal points counting conventions. Nonetheless, though, it's going to be an interesting day for a few of these drivers picking up on the joker system. We watch here, TK Zervings makes his way to the line, 1.4 seconds off beat at the moment. Next to the line is Yaldara, and the number 18, had the pleasure of speaking with him earlier on along with Slyvisio, makes his way to the line and is up to 3rd there. 3 pro cars in a row, that separates the pros from the pro-ams. TK Zervings and Cthulhu round out that top 5. But Yaldara is slowly creeping into frame here on a look at that front row. He's 1.2 seconds off of Valet, and more importantly, he's 0.8 seconds off of his own teammate there. If he wants a bit of that front row, I think it's going to get very, very spicy here. If predictions are to go off of anything, having Valet and Sly on that front row, 2 very assertive drivers in their own respect, going down into one of the most tumultuous first corners in racing history, this could get very dangerous. But we more for one welcome that. So back on board with Chris, currently up on his time here from 8th position. The number 77 Aston Martin has done actually rather exceptionally well. He said that COTA, of course, was in a track he got on with. He's mentioned that already, and we've mentioned that already, but we can see right now that that's maybe just a little bit of doubt there. He's made effortless stride into the top 10, given how competitive the field has been coming into this round, given how high the stakes are for a few of the drivers competing in that top 10. So for Chris at the moment, it is, like he said, it's a survival game. On a track like COTA, it is far from easy to go out of a race, no matter the length, no matter what the circumstances at play are, completely unscathed. It is a track that naturally draws chaos to it, much like Bathurst. It is a track that seemingly can never escape the tide of its own chaos. For Chris at the moment, he's made a very, very good bit of work of it here. He's up on his time as he makes his way towards turns 15 and 16 here, down as we enter sector 3 of the track. You see that Bahrain-esque open hairpin left. It's parabolic entry, very sharp exit. It's a very bizarre corner, catches plenty of people out no matter the sport. And now as he makes his way through the far section of turns 17 and 18, down towards turn 19, he's looking at around a second improvement here, 3/4 of a second, if he continues on this pace. Oh, and it's invalidated out of turn 19. A little skid over the line there. If we get the replays up, as he headed down towards the exit of turn 19. We'll see there from Chris as he makes his way out. You see both. And it just slips over the line there. A little bit of oversteer for the Aston Martin. That's gut-wrenching. But nonetheless, it's not stopped his stride at all. That last lap was a 2:08.177. That would have been good enough to put him at the moment up towards that top 5 by the looks of it here. He is making continual improvement, and I don't see it as impossible to see Chris up in that top 5 by the end of this event. Of course, we still have qualifying. We're still in the free practice phase, and we've got bright and sunny conditions for the first practice session. Well, not first practice, sorry, the first qualifying session, much like the first practice session of today. So at the moment, next towards the line here, the number 40 of Woolley, a driver that has gone under the radar for most of the season. One of the new entries for season 16, makes his way to the line, and with a 2:09.660 is 17th in Pro-Am at the moment. Makes his way back up towards turn 1. Looking around there, Ayudo crosses the line just now with a 2:13.285. Fastest lap was a 2:10.607 for the 253 Mustang. Good enough for 19th position. Speaking of Mustangs, the 351 of Osmad here, making his way down towards turn 19 in that bright fluorescent pink Ford Mustang. So from Pro-Am, making his way to the line then, up into the top 10 with a 2:09.415 at the end of all of that. Speaking of Mustangs, here's Wolfdan, now the sort of sole heir to the AM Championship as it stands at the moment. He's been given a Deus Ex Machina from that holiday of the current leader of the AM category, that being Will Smith, and the number 99 Aston Martin, taking a hiatus for the rest of the season, has now opened Pandora's box for the Mustang of Wolfdan to make his way into that running bid for the Pro-Am entry in season 17. Even more Mustangs here. Concrete Ivy, one of our championship contenders in the Platinum Cup, makes his way down towards turn 12. The number 44, it has been an interesting journey nonetheless. If we pull up the overall standings here, you can see he does sit in a very comfortable third there. He's joint third with Toothless, and only 9 points away from second in the championship. So a lot of career potential here up in the pro category for Concrete Ivy. But as he exits turn 16 there, you can see that corner has finally caught him out there. It seems to be catching a lot of the heavyweight cars out here. The Aston and the Ford, especially the Mercedes of Bantusk. I think we've also seen just make their way into the standing list at the moment. But as Bantusk gets to the line here, currently 25th. Last lap was a 2:16. So we'll stay on board with him for the time being, the only Mercedes on the field now, as it seems, for Bantusk on Throttle Motorsports. They're competing for New Zealand. So as we saw with the Ferrari, making your way around this opening section of the track is by no stretch of the imagination an easy task. And for a car with a lot of its weight standing over the nose, the Mercedes definitely does struggle here with the corner variants. You see a little bit of understeer, a little bit of running away from the ideal line at the moment. I think Bantusk is just going through the teething phase of getting his car to sort of lock in and stick to the road surface properly here. He's taking it easy on his run out of turn 9, heading down towards turn 10. And this is curious as well. Obviously, we saw from the Aston Martins 164 miles per hour down that back straight. Phenomenal speed out of both it and the Ford Mustang with its whopping 166, which is remarkable for a naturally aspirated engine. But we'll see what the original engine of that Aston can do in the hands of Mercedes here. So heading down towards turn 12, Bantusk now breaking the 150 barrier up to 160, 162, 163. So only 1 mile an hour in difference between the AMG and what is effectively its customer car in terms of its engine, the Aston Martin V8 Vantage. It does go to show that despite engine, bodywork does have a huge impact on what that engine can do for you. The Aston has just got a little bit less drag compared to that Mercedes, especially over the monumental grills that both of them share. Just seems that the Aston's got the edge there to get that extra mile an hour. Of course, it would be insignificant over the course of, say, an endurance race, but we have but mere minutes in this one, so definitely keep a close eye on that. Every ounce counts. Ricky's now up to third. So for Aston Martin, it is an interesting day to remember. We're back with our original three here. Valle, Slivicio and Ricky. Yaldara and Saxi not too far behind. Aston Martin, I should remark as well, have had a phenomenal season in the hands of Ricky, Saxi and Ololits Chris. The Aston V8 Vantage was, by many considerations, before the introduction of new balance of performance systems outside of the LFM balance of performance system, which was incredibly popular across the world of console ACC. This new wave of balance of performance has done absolute miracles for Aston. It has brought them right back into the meta they were once in when the game first released so many years ago now. And it is really, as an Aston Martin fan, quite wonderful to see them perform so well. See, oh, just cut on board there. That's Wooly, the number 40. Just run into some trouble there. At the end of free practice 2, that's Anzac Comet now making his way to the line. The number 5 in the AM category. I believe it's on an invalidated time for Anzac, so sadly that's the end of his free practice session. But fortunately the sun will once again shine on this track here as we enter the first of 2 qualifying sessions. So again, hate to sound like a broken record, let's bring the schedule up. So qualifying 1 is up next 12 minutes at 10 AM. Now, to bring up the current schedule for qualifying, as corrected now by AXRL. We had that initial mix-up in Snetterton where we accidentally sort of got that entire thing wrong. I can now confirm to you. First 6 minutes is the AM drivers. The next 6 minutes will be the Pro and Pro-Am drivers. So it's going to be very packed towards the end of that qualifying session. The AMs are going to have a lot more breathing space than their Pro-Am and Pro contemporaries. As we see here, 03 Hudson making his way to the line from 26th position with a 208.452 in that McLaren. And one more car, I believe it is now, before the end of free practice. That being Dr. Krieger in one of our only Porsches left in competition. The 911 is by no stretch of the imagination a bad car in GT3. It's one of its most legendary, but it is also one of its most difficult to operate. And Dr. Krieger is definitely giving it a very good go on this day. He's 16th at the moment here in free practice. As we get towards the bright and sunny conditions of our first qualifying session, we could see that shift up a few just by having that warmth of the track on his side there. So we'll see what that Porsche can do later on. Getting us on towards the start of free practice. Not free practice, sorry. The start of qualifying. Maybe a little bit of a mix-up here. I think the Pros and Pro-Ams are going up first. Or no, maybe the schedule just doesn't apply. That's not embarrassing. There we go. No, it is. It is exactly what I thought it was going to be. So there you can see the Pros and Pro-Ams lining up. They're getting ready to go. They're going to stay on that set of tyres for the rest of this session. We can see here our AMs now making their way out. I was very confused for a moment there. I really thought they made me look like an absolute clown. But no, no, no. This is all strategic in the books of AXRL. We watch on board then with soon championship leader to be Wolfdan. And the number 8 Ford Mustang, we saw a whopping 166 miles an hour down that back straight. The Ford definitely is to play into the advantage here of being on home soil here in Austin, Texas. For Wolfdan at the moment, he's got Cam ahead of him and I'm Snippy. I'm Snippy, I should clarify as well, is one of 2 drivers that make up the leading team of the Sir Jack Brabham Teams Championship. So definitely by no stretch of the imagination a slowpoke in AM. Snippy is remarkably fast in the number 6 McLaren. But Wolfdan is currently in the prime position, championship-wise, to move up into Pro-Am. So heading down into turn 12. I just want to note the run into this middle and final sector, and this is where so many lap times end up going wrong. Just because of the onslaught of corner variety they throw at you there. So they throw a squared off open hairpin right, similar to what we get at the Melbourne hairpin at Donington Park. Then we get this parabolic open hairpin left, like what we get at Bahrain International. Then we get these 2 fast right-handers, like what we would see at maybe some of the more Arabic tracks, like we mentioned just there, Bahrain. But what we'd also definitely see that out of is Lusail in Qatar. Then into the sharp left-handers here. This is one of the more unique aspects. If you were to watch an IndyCar or NASCAR race, you see how much they abuse track limits through this section of the track here. But now, taking us onto the hill climb here, up towards turn 1. We'll stay on board with the Mustang then of Wolfdan. He's got a few drivers ahead of him here, Snippy and Cam, so this is going to get interesting here. A McLaren and 2 Mustangs make our top 3 for the first times to be set here. And already Wolfdan is making quite the move on here. He's getting a wiggle on to get towards that Mustang ahead of him. Phenomenal sound of the 5.4 litre naturally aspirated M Sport co-engineered V8 under the bonnet there of this mighty machine. You can see Cam just ahead of him there. It's now heading down towards turn 11. Will we get to see that monstrous number appear once more here as we head down the 3/4 of a mile that is this back straight here? You see not too far behind them at all. There's Skymang in the, I think, solitary Lamborghini in this championship. A very rare pick nowadays. The 33 is joined by the Ferrari of Kiss Army CB8 and Ido in the 253 Mustang. What a run of it has been so far. They've all kept within pretty solid distance, so I would anticipate, at least for the AM drivers, a very close running on qualifying. We saw that in that opening sector, Wolfdan was able to make up a lot of time to the car ahead of him. That has since fallen apart as we've got through the middle, now into final sector of this track. So we'll try and catch on board then with Snippy as he makes his way round turn 19. He'll be the first driver to set a time here for the AM category, and will be the first driver in qualifying 1 to set a time full stop. For Shanghai Shaggers Racing, the McLaren heading to the line then for our benchmark. And across the line he goes at 2:09.962. Now, if we load up our screen here, we'll be able to see how those times pour in. For the 2 Fords in question, it appears that neither of them have been all too successful. As a matter of fact, it is Ido, the newcomer in the 253, that has made his way to the fastest time at 2:09.585. Snippy's pushed down to second. That makes third now. Mustard 27. And the number 277, Ferrari 296, does a 2:08.9 as he crosses the line there. So that makes 5 times already. Ido in a very powerful second in class at the moment. And that is set to wrap up by the looks of it here in about 40 seconds. It has been a very quick qualifying for our AM drivers. The pros and pro-ams are about to make their way out, and it's going to be an absolute stampede of drivers making their way down towards turn 1. But for the time being, already quite a rip-roaring start here as far as things go in AM. And what's more, especially for the soon-to-be championship leader of Wolfdan, has found himself in a very precarious spot. Now currently from the pit lane, has yet to have set a time. So for what was supposed to be an absolute steal of a round, race 1 is going to be quite hard fought for him here. He's still got the opportunity to play for race 2, but that's his race 1 qualifying hopes thrown asunder. Here, as we can see the drivers now anticipating a run in here. Skymang in that Lamborghini is going to try and go around the... Oh, was that a little bit of contact there? In qualifying, no less. Maybe I was just misreading the situation here, but getting very elbows out in the last corner just through there. We saw with Skyman, he's gone side by side with Kiss Army CB8. He's outbroke him going into that corner. And actually, as a matter of fact, there was a little bit of impact there. So things are already livening up massively for a lot of these drivers here. The heat of competition is really starting to sting here. As now we'll go on board with the number 88 of Valet, leading us away here on the start of the Pro and Pro-Am categories. There's Snippy making his way back in. If we can catch back on board here just before we get to the absolute stampedes, that'll be our first flying laps. There's Ricky with his Joker livery on board that Aston Martin. It's going to be a lot to play for here. If he can secure a front row start, it's going to be all to play for the Aston. So there is Valet. Right behind him there, the MBU car of 03 Hudson. Valet already played his Joker, and he played it very effectively in the last round at Laguna Seca. Soggy wet conditions proved absolute bedlam for all of the drivers involved, but Valet was able to remain resolute in his choice of that Joker for round 4. Came away with 60 points to his name on top of the points he's already accumulated since the beginning of the season. This is where it gets very, very interesting, ladies and gents. The chains have been cut and let loose. The Hounds of War here as our two most fierce categories in AXRL do battle in a very limited window of time here as we get down towards the line with just under 4 minutes to go. It'll be a lap and a half for Valet up front, and that'll be not necessarily a story for the drivers all the way out back there. I think the 44 of Concrete Ivy backing up this train of vehicles in Pro and Pro-Am. I think he'll only have about a lap to play with by the time he crosses the start-finish line. So it's almost one-shot quali for a lot of these drivers today, and Valet's already taking to a solid charge down through turn 2, into turn 3 and turn 4, turn 5, then through to turn 6. You can see he is really hugging the inside line there, feathering with the uncertainty of getting his lap invalidated, using every possible square into the track, and actually kicks the back end away. There was almost a Scandinavian flick there and a priceless GT3 car. That is phenomenal stuff to see such good vehicle control on display. Especially given that you would have thought in conditions such as these, at the track at this temperature, around 22 degrees ambient, 22 on track, in such sunny, dry conditions, that we wouldn't see any traction loss. But this was almost intentional on his behalf, running only one traction control setting. He is really sort of playing with the forces at fate that be. So down this back straight here, and bear in mind, 15% air restrictor on this McLaren, so very capped in, 160 miles an hour. So he loses about 6 miles an hour down that straight per lap to Ford, 4 to Aston, and I believe 3 to Mercedes, 1 to Ferrari, and uncapped McLaren. So that 15% restrictor is going to be affecting him more in the areas where he's going to have to accelerate out of. Case in point here, down through turn 15 and 16, not 14 and 15. We've just gone through those. Through turn 15 and 16, where he's going to have to get back on the throttle from relatively low speed on track, is where he's going to falter in terms of his engine performance. Right now, he's really took that in his stride. 35 kilos at a 15% restriction has done very little to deter his confidence behind the wheel. And we saw what looked like almost effortless control of his vehicle, very confident in his machinery, heading down towards the start-finish line at the end of his first flying lap. An astonishing 2:06.140 for Valet. Where's that going to stack up then? 03 Hudson crosses the line, 1.5 seconds off the beat. Just under a second then is Slyvicio from that pole position. Yaldara makes 4th for the time being. Heading next towards the line there, that was TK Zervinks. And now crossing there was 03 Hudson. He's already done that as well. Yaldara crosses the line 6th there. Mustard has now been pushed all the way down to 7th position. Shamian makes 7th, now pushing Mustard to 8th. Cthulhu intercedes Ido and Mustard for 9th position. As Ricky goes 3rd, Saxy in 4th. So Aston Martin in the top 5 now. Were it not for the McLaren of 03 Hudson, it would have been an Aston Martin 3, 4 and 5. It would have been an Aston rear lockout for that top 5 at the moment. This really does seem to be the territory of the Aston Martin, as consistently towards the front of the pack every time here. We saw it in FP1, we saw it in FP2, now we're seeing it in Q1. Will we see it in race 1? Only time will tell here. And with 30 seconds left to go in qualifying, this is going to kick off very, very soon into high gear. Valet is heading down through turn 12 now to turns 13 and 14 to cap off what is going to be his last flying lap of the session. Can he forge an even further improvement into the 205 territory by the end of Q1? Will Sly be able to make up 9/10 of a second to match Valet's pace going down into turn 1 on race 1? Moreover, are the double of Ricky and Saxy going to be able to challenge for that as well? You can see in the middle of them now, that's a depth loser in the Honda NSX as we head down the back straight. A thunderous charge then from McLaren, Aston and Ferrari. The end of qualifying is nigh here, and for Valet heading towards the line now. Is it going to be an improvement? That's what everyone has on their minds at the moment. It was a phenomenal lap beforehand. As he gets towards the line, it is still a 2:06.140. So what will Slyvisio be able to do as he gets toward the line here? Is he going to be able to forge that time back? Only just there, 300ths of a second divide those two. Yaldara goes for third position there. Next towards the line, I believe, is TK Zervinks, who from 9th position is next towards the line here. And I think, yes, is only going to jump up to 5th. That's forced down to 6th there by Chris in the Aston Martin. So I definitely think he was doubting his own ability there. Ricky is heading towards the line now. Bear in mind, he's a joker to play here in that number 27 Aston Martin. So double points for him if he can get a properly solid position in here. He's only for 3rd at the moment. But there you can see, interceding them as well, it's Toothless in that Ferrari, one of the most competitive Pro-Ams, by the way. I think Toothless as well, also running, that is a Joker livery there, the Sky Tempesta Racing number 98. So a lot to play for there, especially for the two Jokers up in top 5 there. Ricky and Toothless doing a very stand-up job at the end of qualifying there. 7 drivers within a second of each other. Valet gets that extra point for pole position. A 2:06.140. Phenomenal stuff. So what an end to qualifying we've had just then and there, ladies and gents. Fastest in the Pro-Ams, Toothless. Fastest in the Pros, Valet. Fastest in the Ams, Mustard 27. And in honour of our host nation here for round 5 of AXRL Season 16, we present to you the national anthem of the United States of America. Sensational stuff there. We'll be playing that national anthem twice, both in honour of race 5 and race 6 of this championship. But for round 5, there you have it. And starting us off then on that front row, what a lockout it has been there at the end of qualifying. To bring us into race 1, things are going to liven up massively here. That front row, Valet and Sly, Ricky and Toothless in the row just behind them. It's incredibly competitive in those top 2 rows. That's not to discredit the efforts of the cars even further behind them there. That 3rd row is going to be extra lively as well, with Saxy and Chris, as well as Yaldara. So taking us away then for our formation lap goes Valet in the number 88 McLaren. So to get a full comprehensive rundown then of our standing order at the end of qualifying. It is Valet from Slyvisio. Ricky makes 3rd with Toothless in 4th. Yaldara makes 5th position after qualifying ahead of Saxy and Chris in 6th and 7th. TK Zervings in 8th. Cthulhu in 9th position, with 03 Hudson rounding out the top 10. S. Shamian makes 11th position. 12th for Osman. 13th for Dr. Krieger. 14th for Concrete Ivy, 15th for this man on screen here, Mustard 27, fastest of the AM drivers in the 277 Ferrari, ahead of Ido in the 253 Ford Mustang. They're down in 16th position. I'm Snippy is 17th, with 18th going to Kiss Army CV8. Heading further down the order is Wooly, who was going to start from 19th position, is now starting from the pit lane. Now, is that going to be a better force of judgment, given how chaotic lap 1 at COTA often tends to be? We'll find out. Skymang is in 20th position, ahead of Adept Loser in 21st. Anzac Comet 22nd, the man on screen here. Cam in the number 67 Mustang, 23rd, ahead of Wolfdan in 24th, Luke in 25th, Bantusk in 26th position. Further down at the line, 27th, if we can find them on screen here. Starting from the pits, provisionally last, is Race for Life. This is going to be very, very interesting stuff here. As we head down towards turn 11 for the first time here on the formation lap, we watch on board of the furthest up the field of the Joker drivers for today. Double points, as we've mentioned before, for both of these drivers in that second row, Ricky and Toothless, with quite a lot on the line here. For Ricky, you can see he's got the very lively front row ahead of him of Slyvisio and Valet. He's perhaps hoping these two trip over each other on the run down to turn 1. You've got the unstoppable force meets the immovable object. And for Ricky, I think it's just going to be about keeping his head down and especially clear of the rampaging Ferrari behind him. Toothless has proven himself a very worthy talent of the graces of the pro category. We take a look in the Pro-Am standings, and Toothless leads by quite the margin here. 9 points over Evil as we head into round 5. So this is where things start to simmer into quite the boil. Saxy as well is going to have his hands full here, competing alongside Chris. The two Aston Martins inside the top 10 are going to have quite a bit of work to get past that McLaren. Unrestricted, unlike the car leading us on that front row. The McLaren of Yaldara is going to have no issues whatsoever down that back straight. It's all going to be a momentum game from the moment go. So as we try and catch on board now with Valet, as we get into the proceedings now of lap 19, not lap 19, sorry, turn 19 to turn 20. So without further ado, as we get down towards turn 20, it's going to be round 5. The COTA SuperSprint race 1 here of AXRL season 16. Taking us down to the line then will be Valet. And without any further ado, we line up 27 cars in all, 2 from the pit lane, 25 on track. And we are green and racing here at the Circuit of the Americas. A fantastic start already by our front row. An even better a start by Ricky there as he tries to get up side by side with Slyvisio down into turn 1. Sly's going to stay around the outside. Ricky's got the inside though. Heading down into turn 2 from the perspective of Valet. You can see they're filtering back into a line here between the top 3. Further down the line, it is absolute chaos there. Yaldara hitting towards the outside. Saxy's going to try and go around the outside. Hudson is looking to take on his teammates Cthulhu and TK Zervings here as we head up through turns 3 through 6. Race for Life now making his way out of the pits. Here's Adept Loser and Anzac Comet side by side here. The Ferrari and the Honda. A little bit of a hit there between those two as we head now up towards turns 7, 8, 9 and 10. So far, so good here. Don't want to hold my breath to anything, but it's been a relatively clean start as far as things go here at the Circuit of the Americas. Now heading down towards turn 11. Oh, that was Yaldara. That was Yaldara overcooking his brakes down into turn 11. Was doing a very good job there to avoid a major incident. You can see the turquoise blur of his Novasport McLaren rejoining the track there. He's done a very good job to keep himself out of trouble. That could have been disastrous for both him and Toothless. So now that's going to gain Saxy a position. He's up into the top 5. 2 Astons now in the top 5. Chris just hanging on the outside there. Just a few tenths of a second from his contemporary in the number 4. We have had a yellow flag. Oh, it's Chris. And he's come together with a few different cars there. You can see another car caught in the fray of it was 03 Hudson. And Adept Loser just ends up in the iron sights of the Aston as it tries to turn itself around. That's been disastrous. So yellow flags are out. Chris is now knocked against the side of the Mustang. TK Zermix is around at turns 13 and 14. I maybe spoke a little too soon about it being a clean start here at the Circuit of the Americas as things have kicked off very rough and ready down into the middle sector of this track. Chris appears to have some form of structural damage there. That was Mustard against Adept Loser and 03 Hudson. A triple spin out there through turn 16. What on earth has gone on here at the race start? Nonetheless, Valet leads into lap 2. Slyvisio second. Ricky third. Toothless in fourth. Saxy in fifth. For TK Zervinks, that has been a disastrous start, as to for Mustard, who was starting furthest up the order for the AM drivers, has had a disaster down into turn 13 and 14. Hasn't got a lot of time in the way of it here to make that mistake into a benefit. For Toothless, though, he's hanging on to P4 for the time being, but losing ground to the Aston Martin in front of him, and moreover, the Aston Martin behind him is starting to gain ground here. 1.1 seconds is the gap. We'll monitor it over the course of this race. Now we're on board with the 295 of Cthulhu, who's managed to split his way into the pack here. Has to deal with Ozmad and Snippy on his tail, but is now carving time away to the car in front. So definitely a few hiccups as far as it goes then for that race start. This is Wolfdan here, now up to 20th position. Which I believe he started in what was 19th, but it was a pit lane start from 19th. So he's done rather well to be in a very close fighting position there. He very nearly got spun off at turn 10. That could have ended in disaster there. There's Ololitz Chris and Mustard 27 down into turn 11 right behind him there. Oh, big love tap there, and it's going to take out one of the cars behind him. Oh, that is brutal. We see there, from the perspective of Wolfdan, we head down into turn 11. You can see right behind him there is Mustard 27 and Ololitz Chris. The driver in the AM and the driver in the Pro there. The Aston Martin just taps the end of the Ferrari and Mustard. He snaps in the opposite direction, catches TK Zervinks on his way out. That is just mighty unfortunate. So there are still yellow flags out in this for the middle and last section. The 444 of Luke, a very last second entry there, down in 24th position at the moment, struggling out of turn 12, down into turn 13 and 14, is now off of the track as well. Yaldara's done well to regain 6th position there in the number 18. Of course, he's some way behind to where he would like to be, but he's done very well to avoid certain disaster, especially on that lap 1 run into turn 11. That was a very lofty send on the brakes there. He's done well to keep out of the way of the cars in front of him. Valet still leading, but it's 0.7 seconds between himself and Slyvisio. Could we see these two do battle very soon? The 277 has run into even further troubles out of turn 20 now, as it looks to be a mad dash into the pit lanes for some drivers. This is the view from Concrete Ivy. He's got Dr. Krieger for company, 0.5 seconds between those two. And then Kisami CV8 and Ido right behind them, the number 7 and the 253, chasing them down for their own respective position. Concrete Ivy, of course, one of the contenders in the Platinum Cup Championship, but is a long, long way away from where we would like to be. As 2 cars behind him start to do battle there. That's going to be Ido on the inside of Kisami CV8. You can see the green and black Mustang, almost reminiscent of the Monster Energy Racing supercars that Cam Waters would drive. You see, those two have done a very good job there in terms of a battle. If we actually get a replay of that, you can see it was a very well sized up move by the Mustang heading out of turn 11. Now watching on board then for what is the battle of first place between Valet and Slyvisio. It is rearing up to really kick off now as we get in towards lap 3. That gap was 0.8 seconds. It's now being drawn ever closer to half a second between these two. Once he's in the slipstream, it is a winning fight here for Slyvisio against the restrictor plate on that McLaren of Valet. This is where things do get rather interesting. Now, we've seen the confidence Valet has in his machine, but he's not going to have the low-down grunt he needs and the McLaren would normally have to get the advantage over the slightly more anemic turbo V6 of the Ferrari 296 behind him. The yellow flags are out again. And this is for the number 77 that is now since going into the pit lane. What on earth has gone on now down in that middle and final sector? I was really expecting a lot of the bulk of our troubles to come out of sector 1 here, in an area so easy to throw the back end of the car away. We've even seen it on Valet's runs here in qualifying, that he would throw the back end of the car away. It is easy to break traction, and then once you do in a GT car, it's often a very, no pun intended, slippery slope to a spin out. Between these two at the moment, though, it is now bouncing between 0.5 and 0.7 seconds. As we head down the back straight here, we'll see where the Ferrari is gaining the majority of its time. 161 miles an hour was the mark to beat for Slyvicio's time that he set on our track rundown. And now as we head down the back straight, still at 0.7 seconds, we saw what was a very strong inside line by the Ferrari. Valet is just trying to keep him out of his toe there. You can see he normally would hang further right on the track. He's going to do it at the very last second to keep traction on his side, and moreover keeping that slipstream away from the Ferrari. In fact, he's almost trying to kick a little bit of his side draft over the nose of the Ferrari and slow it down, trying to hinder some of the advantage it holds on to over his restricted McLaren. At the moment, things are looking very, very peachy for these two. It's just going to continue to get more and more spicy here in the battle between two incredibly manoeuvrable works of mid-2020s GT3 machinery. Heading down into turn 19 there. A little stab of oversteer for Valet. So getting a little bit rough and ready over the curbs now. Last lap was a 2:06.322 and looks to be an improvement on that. But even more so, Sly is continuing his conquest, going 2 tenths faster in the last lap there. Yellow flags have since been cleared. Heading down into turn 1. Sly is still eyeing something up here. Oh, he was going for the inside almost there. And thought against better judgment of trying to commit to fully on the inside. But now this is a little bit of a taunting game for these two, as we try and get the onboard now of our attacking car of these two. Slyvicio in the 211 going toe-to-toe with Valet here, the current championship leader of the number 88 and the former championship runner-up of the 211. Competing for Novus Ludo, no less. This is the onboard helmet cam here of the 211. Heading out of turn 9 down towards turn 10. That McLaren is still just close, but just too far away. It has got to be weighing pretty heavy on the mind of the Ferrari, which is a very proud pack fighting car. This thing can stick very close in the drag and in the slipstream, I should say, of any car on this grid and do amicably well under such duress. I mean, the tyres will last the extra mile if you're driving a 296. That is just given fact at this point. And Sly is not letting go of Valet for love nor money here. Ricky hanging around in the background there. He's got a sizable gap to Toothless now. He's in a comfortable P3 with that Joker to play. It's going to be a lovely points yield out of race 1, especially if these two trip over each other. See, it just keeps getting closer and closer here. I daren't look away. I've been known for this. Now, I've got a very unhealthy reputation to myself of panning away from these battles right as they boil over. Heading down into turn 19 then. Sly is getting ever closer. Could he be eyeing up a move then on lap 5 with 14.5 minutes left to go? We're about at the halfway mark of this race, or thereabouts approaching it, to make that lunge and supersede control of the race lead here. This could get very interesting. On that last lap, another 2 tenths found. And will he find another on this lap? You can see he's gone much later on the brakes. Valet's looking to cover him off though through turn 1. He's going to compromise on his line a little bit here as the Novus Ludo Ferrari of Slyvicio finds his way to the left-hand side of the track just a little bit earlier, staying on board that dash cam, now through a very tough section of the track, the one that we've already seen Sly is capable of taking at considerable speed, but just look at how fast the McLaren ahead of him is. Valet is going hells for bells here in race 1. He's not been put under such duress in quite some time for such a short race. Under 14 minutes left to go. We're looking in the ballpark here of around 7 more laps of racing before the end of race 1. You can see just through that first sector alone that Valet absolutely soars away. See there, just in the rear view of Slyvicio's car. A little blue dot in the background there. That is the Aston Martin of Ricky, and the little white dot behind him, that is the Ferrari of Toothless. Again, I mean, they've retained their second row lineup. I'm sure they're not going to be complaining too much. No one normally scoffs at 3rd and 4th, and especially when you're getting double points for it, you're making nearly as much, if not more points than the 2 cars ahead of you. So, in an ideal world, I don't see him complaining all too much here. I think he's just going to sort of watch the fireworks of this battle, if it does, and probably when it does, boil over into some side-by-side elbows out action here. See, Sly just makes up a lot of time in that final sector. He's done so over the course of the last couple of laps very, very consistently. Sly holds on to the fastest lap of this race so far, 2:06.015. It was set around a lap ago. For Valet, he's been losing 0.2 of a second each lap. And things could get very hairy for him very soon here. We'll see what their times are before we pan away. We're just at the halfway point of this race now. These two are still in contention for the race lead. Heading out of the last corner there, it's actually Valet to the advantage after a very poor first sector by Sly Vicio. So I say the battle is very much so still on. We'll catch up with it in a little while here. We can see now a battle for 19th position between TK Zervings after a disastrous start to his race up against Bantusk in the 555 Mercedes AMG. Heading down towards turns 15 and 16. Zervings was eyeing up the inside there. Is he still going to try and make it stick? Yes, he is. He's to the inside and ahead there. What a move. Very masterfully played there by TK Zervings. Down into turns 15 and 16. Very, very nicely done. See there to the inside. Bantusk had to run the outside of the track. All very well played there. This is the onboard now for the 295 of Cthulhu, fighting for P7 here for the MBU team. The number 295 is up against the 351 of Osmad in the Ford Mustang. So as we head down through turn 9, down towards turn 10, you see the Mustang's got the better getaway here. And it does technically have the better straight line speed. I think it was, in fact, Osmad that set that fastest speed record here for GT3 in this round. 166 miles per hour. Is the Ferrari going to be able to match that? A bit of a wonky line on the exit of turn 11. Is that going to line him up just to be in the wake of this Goliath Mustang, leading him down towards turn 12? You can see the Mustang is in fact peeling away. So looking elsewhere on track, it is a retirement from the 77 of Ololitz Chris. That is a very bitter end to race one for him, but not out of luck just yet. Now we've got the Battle of the Mustangs here, and I suppose it's only fitting here in the Lone Star State that we get to see the Stallions run. The two Mustangs doing battle now, the 67 and the 253. Ido versus Cam in the AM category. And Ido is a relatively new driver on my radar, at least, and I believe a new entry very recently into the Australian Xbox Racing League. And so far, so good for Ido. I mean, in the green and black car, very reminiscent, like I said before, of Cam Waters' Gen 3, the Monster Energy colours. Whether or not that was intentional or otherwise, it's just an astute observation up against that bright fluorescent pink Mustang of Cam in the 67. These two were razor close to each other on the exit of turn 11. Now as we exit turn 16, things are starting to simmer down a little bit. We'll see how and when that boils over into a battle here. We're also just trying to keep attention on any updates on that battle over on the front row. There is Cam's perspective as well. Just going to quickly check in then on what is going on in the state of affairs up on that front row. At the moment, 0.4 seconds. It is definitely still in the territory here of moving into a side-by-side battle. You need one well-placed lunge to the inside, and Sly very nearly had that there. You can see how much more brake he's able to use there. We're not playing for an endurance race here. You can use those pad ones. You get the most amount of friction coefficient there going into that corner, and you're down on the anchors immediately. And for Sly, he is now very much so charging towards Valet here. They're side-by-side thereabouts, going down into turn 12. Is it going to stick, though? No, Valet's going to defend it. Terrible camera work on my end. He's going to stick the move. Still very much so the lively anticipation of another overtake on the horizon here. If we can quickly scroll across and find our fighting car in this mix, then Sly very nearly had him on the run to turn 12. Now as we exit turn 16, he is still biting at the heels of that McLaren. He has been pressuring him all race for this. 8.5 minutes left to go then before the end of race one, and things have kicked off at the front row yet again. Stay on board for just a little while longer. Really do not want to be away from the action when this does go hot. And it's very, very soon by the looks of it here. Out of turn 19, now through turn 20. As we head down the start-finish line, It was a 207.3 against a 207.1. Slides back on the advantage, gaining 2 tenths per lap. And now is well within the range to go and challenge for a run down the inside. Gets cut off there at turn 1. Will stay on the dash cam as a bit of a flick out of turn 1 by Valet. The back end does step away, but it's just giving him the momentum that he needs as he heads down through turn 2 to stay ahead of Slyvisio. By the way, all through this battling, Ricky is staying very, very close. Now as we head down towards turn 7, 8, 9 and 10. This battle is still absolutely roaring and it's firing on all cylinders, whether 6 or 8 in this battle at the moment. We know how much further he can get onto the brakes here, so he's going to stay very, very close to Valet. He'll be in the slipstream. He's got the better line out of turn 11, so it has now become a drag race between these two as we head down 3/4 of a mile here of FIA Grade 1. We could very well see the move we've been anticipating all race here between our front two. Sly is trying to gun it for the inside. He's been covered off by Valet. He's going to try and go around the outside now as we head down towards turn 12. Can he stick the move? Valet's going to stick to the inside. Is it a switchback in the making here? No, it is not. Very staunch defence there by Valet. Very, very nicely crafted. Very fair racing between these two. They're getting their elbows out, not in a way that's forcing each other around here. These are two drivers playing at the apex of their ability. Heading down through 15 and 16, then Valet's going to stay very wide of the track there, using every possible inch he can get here. He knows engine-wise he's not got the advantage anymore. That Ferrari is charging, and it is charging hard here. Heading through turn 18, down towards turn 19. The Aston drawing ever closer to this imminent battle at the front row. Could we see what was a 2-horse race become a 3-horse race here as we head down towards turn 20? Sticking very, very close here. Now, he's got 6 minutes on the line. 3 more laps or thereabouts for Valet to try and hold on to this lead of race 1. Heading down towards turn 1. Is Sly finally going to be eyeing up the move he's been searching for all race? No, covered off again. It has been a brilliant defence then by the championship leader. Down through turn 2. Now, this is an area of track both the drivers have a very good understanding of. We saw just how much faster though, and it's that late use of the brakes there and using every bit of momentum that he's got. In fact, that ballast might also be helping him get the back end away on that McLaren. He's doing a very stand-up job to keep distance between himself and the Ferrari of Slyvisio, but he knows heading out of turn 10, if he cannot keep Sly ahead of about 3 to 4 tenths of a second, that move will most likely happen. Now as we head through turn 10, he's at the magic point 4. Will Sly even attempt that run to the inside? He knows how much later he can brake for it, but he's not going for it just yet. He's going to be sticking right behind the McLaren, forcing him to defend mid-corner. Now as we head out of turn 11, these two are still going here. And now upwards of 120. Now heading towards 130 as we head down 3/4 of a mile here. 140 from the Ferrari. 150, 160 miles per hour, 162, 163. Is he going to dive for the inside now? No, he's not. Valet ultra late on the brakes. Unbelievable stuff here in Season 16. These two absolutely level. Ricky slowly sneaking into the back here. If these two make even one mistake out of line, it's going to cost them dearly with the Aston chasing them for that Joker victory. Of course, got one more race ahead of us as well, but it has been brilliant thus far. We had the opportunity to speak to both as well during this race. We do want to try and catch some of the other battles going on as well, but this is what we've been absolutely glued to all race. A 2-horse race here up in the pro category. These two have displayed absolute mastery of ability. Perfect racecraft out of these two. However, there have been since complaints that the racecraft down in AM and Pro-Am has been a little bit on the contentious side, considering the bedlam that was lap 1. Going down into turn 1 though, Sly is still eyeing it up. He's still pressuring Valet to compromise. You can see he is definitely trying to get the impact in there, and he is compromising to within some degree Valet's line of turn 1, but the McLaren is just finding enough grip on the exit there to find his way out of certain trouble. Right now, it is a constant concertina. Sector 1, he builds the gap up. Sector 2 and 3, he loses that gap entirely. For Valet at the moment, his race is going to be decided on Sector 1 alone, as everywhere else on the track, the Ferrari is either with or gaining. The moment Sly can find a similar line to Valet through Sector 1 is the moment he gets that overtake in. And with time drawing ever closer, 3 minutes left to go here. So we're looking at one more lap before the end. And he's gone for the inside. Sly Vicio jumps for the inside, but he runs out wide at turn 11. Oh, he maybe spoke a little too soon with that move there. It was definitely on the loftier side of things, as we saw heading out of turn 10, absolutely sends it there for the inside. You can see he's gone ultra late on the brakes, but he's overcooked his line and has gone to the far edge of the track, netting Valet back out in front there. 0.7 seconds, a lot of the time that he has spent this race building towards, now falling away there as we get towards what is going to be our final lap running. So we'll try and catch on board with these two in a moment. We're going to quickly check around the track to see where our other battles could be coming from. It seems to be a relatively spread out affair here, close to each other, at least in the Pro-Ams is 7th and 8th, Cthulhu and Ozmad. We saw them earlier do battle as well. Things are relatively tame down in the AM categories. We can see here, though, 03 Hudson's going to be battling with two AMs. The Mustangs we saw before, Ido and Cam. Ido actually goes wide here. It's going to be a very, very packed drag race here down into what is going to be among the final runnings of this 3/4 mile back straight. Hudson, with damage over the nose of that McLaren, is going to have quite the task ahead of him, jumping two Mustangs already locked in with this battle in the AM category. Cam's going to go to the inside. Ido's going to have to hold his line around the outside. They're still going side by side there. Hudson looks to be jumping both of them on the exit of turn 12, but Cam's going to get that move in. Ido might actually, yes, lose the position out, but he's going to hold to the inside here of 03 Hudson as we head down towards turn 15 and 16. A big snap of oversteer. And now down to 16th there. Ido reluctantly having to slot back in behind that McLaren. So looking back towards that front row again, 0.3 seconds. Valet and Sly on the last lap of this race here, still in headlock here for the control of the race win. 1 or 2 races on today. And now we get to see our proper last run of it here. Now staying on board with the race leader. He's led every single lap of this race so far, if you take out turn 11. But the number 88 of the Shanghai Shaggers Racing McLaren of Valet has had a very, very solid performance today. But can he hold his nerve all the way to turn 20 here? As now, with very little time left in it, is there going to be the lofty lunge we've expected from Sly Vicio all race? No, there isn't. He's been able to hold him off for just one more run of turn 12. Now through 13 and 14. Sly's going to having to compromise on that inside line. If this was a longer race, Ricky would be with them here. But sadly, that Aston is going to be sitting in a reluctant P3. I'm sure he'll be chuffed with the double points on podium for the Aston, because these two have been at each other's throats all race long. And it has been fantastic to watch a race go on for so long here. Now heading down towards turn 19, in towards turn 20. It is going to be so close now between these two as we head out through turn 20. Sly, is he going to be trying to gauge anything here on the exit of turn 20? I don't think so. Heading towards the line then at the end of race 1. What a move. What a move then by Valet. All of that defensive performance has paid off massively over the last 25 minutes. Ultra valiant defensive first position. Very, very well done. We'll hopefully get a chat with him over the course of second qualifying. What a performance that has been for him today. Winning in the Pro-Am category then is Toothless with 4th position overall, leading the Pro-Am class with that double points joker in effect. He'll be absolutely chuffed today. I'm Snippy works his way back to the front there of the AM category. P10 overall, still in the points in the Platinum Cup, but leading the Pro-Am out of race 1. What a end then to race 1. It was chaotic from the get-go there, and there was one retiree, that being Ololitz Chris, caught up in the maelstrom of turn 12 through 13. Plenty of cars there caught up in the midst of it. A very tight section of the track that has undone and granted so many race performances. We'll hopefully be able to speak to Valet in a moment's time as well. What a performance that has been out of him. And Sly gets that extra point for the fastest lap as well in the championship. Every ounce counts here. Like we spoke with him earlier, it's going to be the prioritisation now of trying to get back towards those podium positions by the end of the championship. It's not been the best first half, but he's certainly trying to make it the best second half. See if we can try and get a word out of Valet. If not, we'll just move on to the proceedings of second qualifying. But what a race that was there by Valet. No one can take that away from him there. Ultra performance in the defense there. Valet's now in the call. What a race that was for you there, Valet. Brilliant performance, brilliant defense. How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm pretty sweaty after that one. I thought he was probably going to get me at some stage, but we said we'll do it the Valet way, and we certainly got that one done.
But now we know firsthand here on TRTN what the Valet way looks like. That was a fantastic show of force from both of you.
Yeah, no, he drove superbly for the 12 laps that we did, and I knew at the end he'll be a bit desperate, but yeah, we somehow just held him off on the straights, and yeah, got it done.
Yeah, well, absolutely brilliant performance. Absolutely mega today. Well done.
Oh, thank you, sir.
And that was Valet, their race winner of race 1 here in round 5. The COTA SuperSprint of season 16 of the AXRL. What a race that was. And don't go anywhere, ladies and gents. One more quali and one more race on the way. Do not go anywhere. Just wait now on the proceedings to go into the next qualifying session. We'll update you on whenever that does come to happen. Absolutely insane stuff. I think the only criticism I have is I just wish I had more time to capture every single battle. It looked like it was an absolute war out there in COTA. We've seen there some of the finishing standings. 03 Hudson finishing within a 10th of a second of Cam there for control of 14th position. See even further around the field there, 6/10 of a second between Concrete Ivy and I'm Snippy for control of the last of those top 10s. But I think most poignantly, 0.2 of a second divide first from second across the line here at the Circuit of the Americas. Now, I must admit, I've been definitely humbled here as behind closed doors. I'm not exactly the best fan of COTA as a venue, but it's proven me absolutely dead to rights wrong here as one of the best venues for GT racing. Maybe not so much a fan in Formula 1, but who am I to say? So, dusk begins to set here at the Circuit of the Americas as we kick off into qualifying. Qualifying 2 and race 2 next up, ladies and gents, as we see our Pro and Pro-Ams make their way to the end of the pit lane to queue up for their window. Opening 6 minutes, of course, granted to the Am drivers. The remaining 6 granted to Pro and Pro-Am. So, as we see getting out the doors first there, that was the number 6, I believe, of I'm Snippy. Let's see if we can catch on board with him there as he comes out of turn 1. So Snippy did very well in that last race, led in the AM category, finished 10th at the end of race 1. Now coming into qualifying 2 and race 2, the nighttime leg of the Super Sprint. We've got less visibility, but one must consider this is a venue that has hosted the NASCAR Cup Series. So obviously cars with no headlights. This track still does have ample lighting. So visibility isn't too much of a concern as it would be on other tracks. Lighting is there and there is the support to see most of the corners here. You can see the floodlights is covering just enough ground here to give our drivers an understanding of what they're driving into. You can see the light show there from the van zone and the viewing tower. The Circuit of the Americas, one of the most iconic parts of this track, bar the giant Texan flag on the edge of turn 1. Certainly one of the best races I've ever seen at COTA then. We've still got one more, so this is all the more exciting for us as we hope it is for you viewing at home. So for Snippy, he's complemented by the lineup of Mustard 27, Kiss Army CV8 and Skymang. That top 4, Race for Life making the 5th car to go across the start-finish line here in qualifying. We've got just around 4 minutes for these drivers here before the end of their qualifying stint. And then begins the meat and potatoes of this sandwich, the Pro and Pro-Ams that are remarkably fast, as we've just seen from race 1. So down into turn 1. We'll stay on board with Snippy over the course of this lap. Through turn 1, not to be dazzled by the spectacular light show from the fan zone there. Down through turn 2 and into turns 3, 4, 5 and 6. Lighting is a little bit sparse on this area of the track. Of course, you can still see where it is dotted around, but where we did say visibility wasn't going to be much of a concern, we meant for the greater majority of the track. There are still some of these areas that are almost completely dark or so sparse in lighting that you're relying more on your vehicle than you are on the infrastructure of the track itself. There we go, up through turn 9, down towards turn 10. So far, so good then for the McLaren. And I'm curious to see here what this McLaren's going to be able to do down the back straight. I think it's a recurring pattern now. Every time we've been to the Circuit of the Americas, we always measure this one singular metric. What's the top speed going to look like by the time we get to turn 12 here? Well, we're at 150 now. 155, 160, 161 miles an hour. So the same as the Ferrari as far as it goes. Pound for pound here, we're looking at just north of 160 per lap. Still, I don't believe I've seen anything quite like what I saw out of those Mustangs. You're breaching into territory such as, like, say, Ferrari Challenge by that point, and GT2 for that straight line speed. You're looking at nearly 170 miles per hour. That's unthinkable in GT3. You'd expect to get top ends like that out of, say, Monza or even the Dottinger Höhe section of the Nürburgring Nordschleife, but at COTA, it is definitely quite impressive. Down towards turn 20 then. I'm Snippy, the first time to be set here in the AM category, and we'll get the live timing chart up here. Crossing the line for our baseline mark of doesn't say, because I believe it was invalidated. So it'll be Mustard 27 setting our benchmark at a 2:08.875. We'll see where that compares. Kiss Army CV8 goes 1.3 seconds off, 1.39 for Skymang NZ. So very close between these two. You're looking at only 600ths of a second there. Race for Life puts himself 7/10 of a second. Wolfdan puts himself 4/10. So finally in with a solid time there for the soon-to-be leader of the AM category. He had a serviceable enough race in race 1, but now with qualifying on his side, actually getting that position in, getting what needs to be done here at this crucial leg of qualifying. Now he'll be able to get right into the thick of it and get into the action of race 2 and score some more points there. Need I bring up again the AM standings at the moment, which will since be updated, since we already now have upwards of 15 to 30 points to contend with here, with drivers now having contributed more points to this chart. But Wolfdan is around 30 or so points. I think just a little under 30 or so points ahead of the car behind him. That was Mustard 27, who finished some way behind in the AM race in race 1. There is still that potential for Wolfdan to lead this championship after this round, and he's got one more race to prove us right. We'll be watching very closely then. So currently 5 times on the chart here. At the back of those is Skymang in the only Lamborghini in competition left now. Of course, the age of the V10 is coming to a bit of a bitter end here in ACC. I mean, the Lamborghini was definitely up there for some time, especially the Evo 2, which we're seeing on screen at the moment, was certainly up there when it was first introduced. It was one of the big 3. You had the 296, you had the 720S Evo, and you had the Huracan Evo 2. But sadly, it just seems that the V10's gone out of fashion now. The V6, or the 296 Ferrari, is just all the rage these days. And when it's not that, you're looking at American muscle with the 5.4 M Sport V8. Or you're looking at, say, the 4-litre twin turbo from McLaren's offering. So it's tough to say. Mustard 27, though, takes the fastest time so far. So there, that, I think, concludes the end of the AM runnings. They're only only 5 times there on the board. Which can't be grand, I don't imagine. But now we can see the absolute wave of cars making their way down towards turn 12 from the Nova Sport team. Out in force there. Slyvisio, Yaldara, Hudson, Cthulhu, and Evil all in formation. A sea of purple, a purple rain, if you will, heading down into this middle section. So we'll go on board then with the first car out of the Pro and Pro-Ams. That's Valet yet again. The early bird does seem to get the worm each time now. This is a recurring pattern. He's always first in that line. He's always first to get to the start-finish line. The best thing you can hope for on a track like this is an open track ahead of you. Traffic is the worst thing you can run into on a track like this. In fact, off the top of my head, there's probably one track in circulation you'd actually want to run into traffic for in qualifying, and that would be Monza, just based off of how much slipstream you can get if that car is on relatively close pace to you. If you can stay within about a second of them and not deliberately cap your own times, you're going to find quite a few temps per lap just being in the slipstream of others. That's not the case around here though. Too technical in the first and final sector to gain any real benefit from being right behind someone, other than being in the case of a battle where you've got that psychological aspect like we saw with Sly on Valet there. It was very close to boiling over there, but he's put on a brilliant defensive performance, and now we'll see what he's capable of here in the second leg of the Super Sprint. Now, if the opening lap was anything to go off of, there was definitely a lot of cases where drivers couldn't necessarily see each other, see all 4 corners of the vehicle. There's a lot of blind spot tagging there, especially out of turn 12. That does raise the question, is what is it going to look like here as we rerun it at the brisk dark of night here in Austin, Texas. Visibility was already somewhat of a concern. Now we're in nighttime. We're really hoping we don't get to see a repeat offence here, because we had a fantastic start up front and then it just quickly poured into bedlam from middle and behind. And such is the case. When you end up in these very tight crunch zones of the track, people get eager on lap 1, and I think the pressure of it being such a short race, 25 minutes per race, is it's going to bring that pressure to people. Some people are going to make those lofty moves early on because they know they're not going to get the opportunity again. This isn't like an endurance race where you've got upwards of, you know, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, etc., to where you can make those significant leaps and bounds pace-wise. So for Valet, as he heads across the line now, and setting our benchmark, a 2:05.875. We did say that one of these days he was going to break into that, but I believe it's an invalid lap. So if he had got that in, it would have been a very supreme pole position. But Sly Vicio is going to take that with just under, I believe, a lap to go. So Valet has to nail this next one if he's looking to reclaim pole. Cthulhu puts himself second. 03 Hudson puts himself third. It's a Nova Sport 1-2-3 right now. You see there, Concrete Ivy goes fourth in the Ford Mustang, 2.1 seconds off the pace for the time being. We've yet to see many more cars from the Pro-Ams make times in. Of course, we've got 3 here. S. Shamian in 6th, Osmad in 8th, Evil in 12th, Krieger in 13th. But up in that top 2 rows here, the crucial positions of the starting grid for this race. Now we get to see Ricky is moving, and he is moving fast. 5 tenths of a second is what divides him from Sly. Could he hold on to that front row? He's basically praying now that Valet has another bad run in with those track limits. Valet had a very strong race there, and it was a 2:05 on his recorded last lap, but due to track limits infractions was invalidated. So Valet's heading out of turn 12. We'll catch up with him towards the end of his lap. Looking back up the timing charts here, so far so good and not too far away at all. Sly could hit back at another time here, but if Valet's hitting for 2:05s, Sly's really going to have to put something special in here. Ricky definitely hunting another podium finish here. He's already gaining quite the hefty sum of points being up in the podium, even more so when compounded with that Joker giving him those double points. Valet then heading down towards turn 20. Is it going to be pole position for the second time in the same day for Valet? Heading to the line then, across the start-finish line, 2:05.8 dead. What a drive there. Is Sly going to be able to do much there? Puts 3 attempts on it, but can't get close enough. Ricky heading down to the line very, very soon. Just gone across the line there was Yaldara, put 6th in the number 18. He's put himself alongside quite a few of his contemporaries there. Speaking of, Cthulhu is finishing his qualifying session in the pit lane, as to is his teammate 03 Hudson, who's just got across the line, coming back to the pits now. They're 5th and 6th. They've been forced down some way because TK Zervings, now the fastest, or second fastest, I should say, of the Nova Sport crew, puts himself 3rd there alongside Ricky for that second row and just behind his teammate Slyvisio in the 211. What will Ricky be able to do, however? This is the Aston Martin, number 27, heading towards the line now. Is it going to be for the podium here? Still on the second row towards the line, and puts himself 3rd and only a 10th away from being on the front row. That's a very strong precedent by the Aston at the end of Quali 2. I believe the only car we're waiting on now out on track is the 277 is down at the pit lane. So it's Toothless, who we saw had a very strong result. P4 in race 1, currently P9, looking to find some time here. If he wants to be up in the position he was last time, he's going to have to find 1.1 seconds in this lap. The number 98 is heading down towards the start-finish line now. Was 9th. Where will he be as the curtain drops? Puts himself in 4th. Absolute top-class stuff there out of the 98. Puts himself alongside TK Zervinks now in the Pro-Am category. Fastest overall then was Valet, and also fastest in the Pro category. Fastest in Pro-Am is Toothless, and fastest in Am is Mustard 27 for the second time going. What an end to Quali 2 then. Another textbook qualifying, a little bit more competitive from that top 3. We did see about 7 cars inside that top second of times, but now it's only about 4. So things are getting very, very razor thin. And just as we did with race 1, we present to you in honour of race 2 of round 5 of season 16, the national anthem of our host nation, the United States of America. So, giving you the comprehensive rundown of our starting grid for race 2. It's Valet from the front row yet again. Pole position for the 88, second time going here in the Circuit of the Americas. Alongside him yet again, Slyvisio in the 211. Ricky and Toothless again on the second row. A mirror match of where we were at in race 1. TK Zervinks in 5th with Hudson 6th. Cthulhu in 7th with S. Shamian in 8th. Rounding out the top 10 is Yaldara and Evil with Nova Sport, the 18 and the 30. On 9th and 10th respectively. Ozmad in 11th, Dr. Krieger in 12th, Concrete Ivy 13th, with Mustard 27 in 14th position. Wolfdan in 15th, Kisami CV8 in 16th position, Race for Life in 17th, Skymang in 18th, 19th for Adept Loser, 20th for Ido, 21st for Snippy, and 22nd for Cam, 23rd for Luke, 24th for Saxy. Anzac Comic gets 25th position ahead of Bantuskin 26th, and rounding out the timings is Ololitz Chris in the 77, starting from 27th position. So, what a qualifying session we've had, but it's a mirror match yet again. The inevitability of these 4 to deliver, and moreover, these top 5, as Zervings was no stranger to the top 5, especially through that opening half of the race. Is it going to be another two-horse race between these two? I do wonder. I really do wonder here, ladies and gents. It has been phenomenal stuff to see out of these two, to be so close to one another at all times. Two drivers working so close to within the parameters of their own ability. And moreover, to see two drivers at this skill level, at this pace, compete so fair against one another. It's so easy when you have drivers of a similar skill bracket to get their elbows out a little too quickly, a little too audaciously, and they start kicking each other around the track. It's very easy to see. And I've seen it in other leagues before, but it seems to be nothing but respect between Sly and Valet at this point. I've never seen two drivers share such respect in such heated battle. Moreover, they're not alone this time round. If pace is anything to go by, Ricky is with them. And if the Aston can stay in the slipstream out of lap 1, he's going to be there pretty much all race. He was consistently hanging around in the back of things here over the course of race 1. Now, Toothless is definitely going to still be with us as well. He did drop off a little bit, but that was due to some issues over the course of race 1. I think he's definitely going to try and rectify a lot of the issues that Ferrari had. And right now, still leading the starting grid for Pro-Am. He's in a very strong position at the moment to continue his lead of the Pro-Am Championships. He'll be looking at that drive towards Pro by season 17, no doubt there. You can see in the background a purple rain yet again. A few of the Novasport cars giving a flare for the camera here, but leading them is the one single orange McLaren. Some beautiful colours on display there. Proper orchard of machinery. Some oranges, blues, yellows, purples, whites, reds. All kinds of colours kicking about there on that front row. We've just seen there, FarougeM92 subscribed with Prime for 2 months. Thank you very much. Your support is greatly appreciated here on TRTN. So heading through turn 16 we go. And now this is where we start to coil up. Like angry cobras, these drivers, they coil up against each other, getting ready for that tumultuous run to turn 1. We saw it was proper chaos in that front row. Going down towards turn 1, it was a sentiment shared through all 27 competitors through race 1. Will we see a mirror match of that? I think the intensity is going to keep building. I don't think we've lost any steam over the course of race 1. Now we get to see part 2 here of round 5. Of season 16 of the AXRL. The COTA SuperSprint, we're in for race 2 now. And this is where it all comes down. We're at the midway of the season. 27 drivers in all. No, actually, there are a few pit lane starts there. Depth Loser, Concrete Ivy, and Anzac Comet among a few there. But now the slow run. Now we know exactly where the race starts. The slow run down to the line here. 27 drivers in all for race 2 here of round 5, heading to the start-finish line. Without further ado, we're green and racing for the second time here at the Circuit of the Americas, and already a strong start from both front rows there. Toothless getting to the inside of Ricky down into turn 1. The Aston and the Ferrari very nearly coming together, but it's Valet away from Sly, from Ricky and Toothless. Hudson now puts himself between the Ferrari and the Aston Martin. A very strong start by 03 Hudson in the number 43. There you can see 03 Hudson now moving his way into the front couple of rows there. It seems that a little bit of a counting error has gone on, as already some issues have begun to arise. The Depth Loser is making his way out of the pits as we speak. You can see things are getting very, very crowded down the order here. We're in 21st with Skymang. You can see all around him, drivers behind him, drivers ahead of him, drivers in front of him. Everywhere you look, there is a car, and it is trying its hardest. Here's the view from Ricky. Checking around down into turn 11. We're now with Saxy in the number 4 Aston Martin. There's Chris right behind him. Battle of the heavyweight cars here as Ford, Mercedes and Aston Martin do battle down in the back of the top 20s. There's Sly. Now really sandwiched in. There's not a lot of breathing room for this one now. It was a 2-horse race last race round. Now we can see that these three are settling into a rhythm. Toothless is not too far behind, and the more the merrier, in my opinion. If we can get this to a 4-car race, I'd be absolutely ecstatic to see it. In the background there, though, we just missed a little bit of something. There's some argy-bargy between Hudson and Cthulhu and Evil. The Novasport cars swapping positions there around turns 13 and 14. Zervinks, though, oh, contact there between himself and Osmad out of turn 16. So we just saw it in the background as we pan across and see what on earth had gone on during that time. We saw down at turn 16, things started to kick off there. As a little bit of contact from TK Zervinks on the inside of Osmad kicks him out at turn 16. Here is Osmad, now down in 13th position, some way behind Zervinks, who's up in 10th for the time being as we head down towards turn 1 here on the end of our opening lap. And for the time being, it is very, very packed out. We can see as well that if we can catch him just in the nick of time here. Race for life side by side with Ido, who's looking to gun him up into turn 1. There goes the 253 Mustang and is up now into 17th position. Race for life goes wide. Might have to forfeit the position there to Saxy as we head towards turn 2. Looking at it here. Oh, yes, he just does there. The canary yellow Aston has to go around the outside. A little bit of contact between himself and Skymang. Race for Life's getting a little bit out of shape here in Sector 1 after a bit of a rough run of things there at the start of the next lap. Here's the view of the Novasport team. A few of their drivers involved now. Evil, Cthulhu, and 03 Hudson. As well as TK Zervinks there. Backing them up is Dr. Krieger in the 3-2-1. See, very close between these three. They're all trying to give each other the room there. We did see a little bit of swapping around as far as things go. But furthest up the field for them in the Novasport lineup right now is Slyvisio. Just going to quickly cut back to what I just saw but a moment ago there. Pretty sure we got some close action here now between Ololitz Chris and Skymang. So Aston versus Lamborghini here. Chris is doing a very stand-up job from the back of the grid. He's already made up in and around the ballpark of 7 positions here, up into 19th position. Ido's going side by side with Skymang. If we look from the rear view of the Aston as we head to turns 13 and 14, you can see they're trying to intercede the inside line there. He's just covered off the Mustang. He's done a good enough job there to hold on to his position for the time being. Skymang defending the last of the top 20s. You can see, though, it's actually in a shock turn here. It's spread out in the top 3. Ricky's 1.1 behind and Valley's 1.2 behind. Well, 1.2 ahead and hitting for 205.6s. So this is a remarkable display now. These are the drivers on all cylinders here. But I think definitely that close action left a bit of a sour taste in Valley's mouth. And now he's just put hell for bells here and he's gone. As for Toothless, he's fallen away from the slipstream of the Aston in front of him, but he's still holding on to a confident P4. He's in those top 5 positions with double points to serve and still once more leading in Pro-Am. So that is very much so the silver lining he was hoping for here in the Circuit of the Americas. This is Cthulhu in the 295. We will check on board with him as he's got a very clear view of 2 of his teammates there. The 46 and a 30, TK Zervinks and Evil. So as we head down towards turn 10, you can see there is really not a lot of space between these three. We're talking tenths of a second now. Heading through turn 11, a little bit of a washout there at the apex, but he's trying to hold on to the slipstream of his teammates now as actually further up the line, 03 Hudson looks to be doing battle with Shamian. Actually see if we can catch on board with that. That looks to be something kicking off very, very soon. There's Yaldara up in 5th. And there's 03 Hudson on Shamian. And just as we get across to him now, they're side by side, heading down into turns 13 and 14. Shamian's holding the inside, or he just didn't see him there. Hits the side of the Ferrari. That's invited Evil into the fray here as we head to 15 and 16. Yeah, you can see a bit of a bunch up between the McLarens of the Novasport and Novus Ludo teams. And MBU for that matter. They're all under the same branch, but bear in mind there are 3 teams in the fray of it. That's Nova Sport, Novus Ludo, and MBU. Hudson being one of 2 drivers in MBU. Right behind him there is a Nova Sport and a Novus Ludo. So it gets a little bit tough here to decide what goes on team orders wise. You've got a lot of drivers very close to each other, but you can see pace wise Hudson was floundering on that last lap. Those 2 are faster than both him and Shamian ahead of him after that last lap. So they're going to be thinking here potentially in the next couple of laps of what can they do here to get the best result possible for the overall group. If we're to take a look yet again at the championship standings for the the Sir Jack Brabham Teams Championship, Nova Sport is in 3rd. They're joint 3rd, as a matter of fact, with Mustlol. That is the team comprised of Dr. Krieger and Mustard27. So they're trying to hold on to those podium positions in the Teams Championship. Of course, Novus Ludo's down in 6th. MBU is down in 9th. So they're trying to get those a little bit closer together by the end of the season here. Right now, it's been a little bit of a easier said than done sort of job, especially for Hudson now, as he's got to consider whether or not he lets his teammates through to give fight to Shamian ahead, or get that move done and slow him down into the iron sights of his teammates behind him. This is the dilemma one faces when working with multiple drivers on the field. As you can see there, that's 4 Nova Sport Group cars. If you count Yaldara in front just briefly in shot, that was 5 of them in frame. But Hudson goes very wide out of turn 12. Is that going to signal to him that he's got to move out of the way here and let some of the faster cars through? What is going to be best for both his own sake in this career and what is going to be for the team? His teammate, I may add, a direct teammate in MBU, Cthulhu, is only 2 cars behind him. But right now, it's all Nova Sport cars basically inside the top 10, all in vital point scoring positions. It may very well be a case where they just let them play here, don't try and intervene too much. So looking further around the field, let's see what the situation is looking like up front, and it's gotten a lot bleaker than we'd imagine. It's nowhere near as razor thin as it was in race 1. So you can see the gap is definitely quite a few car lengths now between Valet and Slyvisio. Once more is the gap between Ricky and Slyvisio, where we thought it was going to be a 3-horse race by the end of race 1 and into race 2. We've been proven, unfortunately, somewhat a little bit wrong here. We must bear in mind 16 minutes still left to go, so really anything can and possibly will happen. Now on board with Saxy in the number 4. We saw him last time getting right into the thick of things on lap 1. Right now sits in 15th position, slowly making his way through the pack here in the Pro category. Not too far behind him, a fellow Aston Martin in Pro. That's oh lol, it's Chris, who's now made his way up to 18th position from starting at the back. Hudson, though, appears to have run into some kind of issue. The 43, yes, so it appears, is out of this race. That is a mighty shame then. That's going to be quite the fatal blow for MBU's progress over the course of this second half of the season. No one wants to end a note on a DNF. He'll only take half of the points that he could have got away from this. So then, observing the state of affairs here from the perspective of Cthulhu, his 2 teammates ahead of him though, TK Zervings and Evil, look to be going side by side into turn 12. Ferrari versus McLaren here. They're going to give each other the space they need. Zervings is going to go up a position, up into 7th. He'll be hunting down Shamian in a moment's notice. Let's get a quick replay of that. That was a very mighty move from TK Zervings, still battling his teammate. See there to the inside. He's held the line. He's kept the space. McLaren's had to run a little bit wide just due to the geometry of the corner, but TK Zervings now up into 7th position. Right behind him there, Evil and Cthulhu. Very well crafted move out of them there. No one can take that away from him. Down into turn 20 then. So we'll be hunting down Shamian, who's 1.7 seconds up the field. Shamian's last time a 2:08.415. Zervings did a 2:07.9. So he's half a second up in that last lap alone. By this metric, it'll only take him about 2.5 laps here before he catches. And that's if he can make even more time per lap here. He's already sitting on the metric of half a second. If he can bring that up to 6 or 7 tenths, we'll be looking at even less time taken to catch 6th position. So still looking around the field, and I believe we did see a little bit of action out of the Aston Martin of Saxey there, looking just at the front row briefly. It's 1.5 seconds between Valet and Sly. Will catch up with them later on, as it doesn't appear to be going hot anytime soon. Race for Life in the number 25 we saw get a little bit out of shape through Sector 1. Was looking close to Wolfdan there, just under a second through this section of the track. You can see that the Mustang ahead of him struggling for rotation. Oh, but something's gone wrong there for Race for Life. He's overclocked it there. I think maybe it might have been a hardware issue for him as he's gone in at the wall. That's a yellow flag out at the moment for Sector 1. See there, just out of this corner, it seems almost like his steering locked up. There's not an awful lot that he could do in that situation. Scrolling through at the moment, things are very close in the state of affairs between Cthulhu and Evil here. Two of the Nova Sport Group cars are still locked in battle here. Whether they want to or not, 0.4 of a second is the dividing factor. Is Cthulhu going to be looking at a lunge down into turn 15 and 16? I don't think he's going to try anything too ambitious out of respect for his teammates here. If it would be a completely different situation, were it not for the fact that he's fighting another Nova Sport Group car. If this was someone else, I imagine he'd be making a little bit more of the risk in jumping up into the dive bombing positions at some of these corners. For now, though, he's going to stay as close as he can and surf the line of his teammate to get further up the field. Zervings looks to be doing battle with Shamian, though, and as we thought before, he's made up a lot more time than just half a second per lap. He is hunting 2:08.6 to a 2:07.3, 1.3 seconds made in the last lap alone for TK Zervings. So now he looks to be hunting down what is going to be the battle of 6th position between himself and S. Shamian. Two Ferraris doing battle out of turn 1. Just watch their comparing lines here as we head through to turns 7, 8, 9 and 10. Up through turn 9 we go, down towards turn 10. You can see that Shamian just has a much better getaway. He's on the throttle earlier, the car's just locked in, it's got a little bit more traction in the midway of the corner, just a little bit better per corner there than Zervings, who's now cooked his brakes through turn 11. He's trying to conserve the momentum necessary to stay on Shamian. But right now, that's floundering. He's 0.8 of a second away, where he was right on him at the start of this lap. He's actually now towards the defensive here, as he's losing more time than he's gaining. A lot of the progress he looked to make there, about half of it, has just fallen away over the course of a single lap. Heading through turns 13, 14, 15 and 16 now. I've got a gut feeling that this is where he's making up a lot of his time. And we can see that in practice right now through turn 16. He's turned what was an 0.8 of a second gap to half a second in the span of 3 corners. Now as we head through turns 17 and 18, we can see that he's had to lift quite some way through that corner. He was in 2nd gear for the torque, then up into 3rd for the power. As we head to the 19th corner of this track, you can see that it's pretty level here. They are twitching around turn 19, heading towards turn 20. He is on him, and he's turned 8 tenths into 4 tenths, and after a bad exit of turn 20, that's down to 2 tenths of a second. We could very well see a move out of TK Zervings as we head down towards turn 1. We'll stay on the dashcam view as it's now front to rear between the 888 and the 46. Will we see him commit to the lunge down at turn 1? He's gone in for it. Is Shamian going to be able to switch him back for 6th position? It looks possible, but no, it will be 6th position there for TK Zervings. What a move. You can see there, it was just front to rear. They were side by side, a drag race down towards turn 1. Zervings has got the better line going through the majority of that, and it's just been a very well-crafted move there out of the Ferrari. And now we're back on board with our front row here. Valet and Sly are now in that pivotal 2nd barrier. We have 9 minutes left to go with this race. You're looking at around 4.5 laps before the finish line here at race 2. Could we see a repeat of the absolutely spectacular finish of race 1, not turn 1? Gotta get these things correct. Boo, race 1. Looking around the field, there's a drive-through penalty for S. Shamian. So that's really compounded his hopes here in race 2. What was starting off as a very solid second race is now fallen apart here with the introduction of that drive-through penalty. Now, we were anticipating penalties throughout this race. We just weren't expecting them to be this late on. We were maybe expecting to see this more towards race 1. As a matter of fact, race 1 went ahead without a hitch, not a single penalty. It's only until race 2 did we get to see any of that come to fruition. Here's the onboard with the number 4 of Saxy as he chases down the Mustang of Osmad. Saxy, who's most recently moved to Aston Martin from On Throttle Motorsports. This has definitely been somewhat of a baptism of fire for what is not by any stretch of the imagination an easy car to make meta. It is a very reliable car, but by no stretch is it the fastest thing in the corners or the fastest thing down the straights. It's a jack of all trades kind of car, and it's what makes it very lucrative a choice for newcomers to the game. But we're seeing right now in the hands of Saxy, he was only 2 tenths down on that last lap, but he is gaining and losing time to that Mustang ahead of him. These are two cars that operate very close to each other in terms of handling dynamics. They are quite heavy for their time. We'll see what Saxy is capable of here through Sector 1. The Aston versus the Mustang. We're expecting quite a heavy dose of understeer here. We can see the Aston is actually clinging a little bit better through these corners. He's getting on the throttle early in the Mustang, but all you saw there is that micro correction that caused him to snap and lose some of that momentum. Momentum is absolutely pivotal in this opening sector. You can see just like that dropped away to 1.1 seconds. That gap at the moment between Sly and Valet still sits at around a second. No further advancement there. Every now and again tips into 9/10 of a second. Every now and again tips into 1.1. Nothing too major at this time. We can see it is eyeing up to be an interesting little battle here in the AM category. Mustard 27 leads AM ahead of Kisami CB8, I'm Snippy, Wolf Dan and Sky Mang. See there, 4 drivers who are up and coming stars of the AM category, especially looking at Snippy v Wolfdan there. You can get an eye on that. Oh, he's massively overcooked the brakes there. Oh, that has not gone well for him there. I don't think the replay is going to do us much justice because we only caught halfway through that. We can see just before we pan away, he is side by side. He's eyeing up that move to the inside at turn 12. And as we see it there, he's gone onto the brakes and the brakes are just not doing him any favours there. Once more, salt in the wounds, catches some of the gravel on the exit there and spins the car. Not ideal then, back at the front row. Still no advancement so far. We can see that with each coming lap, they are still right with each other here. And that's actually, for the first time, dropped down to 0.8 seconds here between Valet and Sly Vicio. Only a few more laps left to go, though, so we'll see where that goes very, very soon. Looking for our next available battle on track, and right now Saxy's getting caught up in the battle not only for 10th position to attack for 9th, but to defend 10th from 11th, because Chris is right with them now. The 2 Aston Martins look to be doing battle for the last of those pivotal top 10s here in the second race. This is all leading into the charge for positions further ahead in 9th, courtesy of the 351 of Osmad. So let's get a look here on board with the number 4. We picked up on it last time here. You can see where the Mustang got away from him in that first sector. He's been able to make some of that time back. He's now within that second barrier that he needs to be in order to start getting some of the slipstream. You can see so much later on the brakes though. It's going to cause him to miss the apex, but he's going to carry a lot of that momentum over onto the curbs. But just accelerating out of it there. The Mustang again peeling away. Osmad has had a phenomenal control of his racing line here, whereas Saxy is really having to push the Aston to get every single 10th of a second it can produce. Oh, and I have cut back to this battle just when I needed to here, because in the span of what seems like absolutely nothing is now the battle for first place. It was 9/10 of a second when we last saw it through Sector 1. We're now at 3/10 of a second as we exit turn 20. We're on board with Sly Vicio as he charges down the opening straight here against Valet. You can see just slowly making its way away from the Ferrari there in a straight line up until around 5th gear. Does the McLaren have the advantage on the Ferrari against its more anemic V6? Heading out of turn 1 though, he's right with him and he's not letting up a single inch of track here. Heading through turn 2, into turns 3 through 6. It's raring to go here with 3.5 minutes left to go. We're looking at 1.5 laps of racing before the checkered flag. And this has now kicked into the highest possible gear it could have. Down through turn 7, now to turn 8. See here, this is where things get made or broken for a lot of these laps. Turn 9, now to turn 10. You see that Valet's made a little bit of time here and there, but later on the brakes will be Slivisio into turn 11. And that's what gives it... Oh, you see he's hit the curb there, the sausage curbs on the inside of that corner. Oh, dearie me. I don't think that's done any damage to his car, but it has massively upset his flow. He's now out 1.2 seconds from Valet. See there, going into turn 11, he was much later on the brakes, was able to follow him on the line. Bang, hits the inside curb there on the front left. That is nasty work. That's 1.2 seconds out of the battle of first. And Sly's going to have to work that back now in what is quickly growing to be 1 lap left here for these two. Looking around the field again, we'll see where our next couple of battles are coming from. Things are starting to mellow out here between the AM drivers. I think Snippy now moving towards Kiss Army CV8, 0.8 of a second at the moment as they head down the back straight to turn 12. Ahead of them, Mustard 27, who has had very, very solid control of things here in race 2 in the AM category. See, half a second between Shamian and Cam. Down towards then turn 12. They're half a second from each other. I don't necessarily think Shamian's going to try anything funny now. I think it is a sort of salvage race for him here at the end of round 5. Still looking around the field. It's a close contention here with a lot of these drivers in the midfield now. Osmad puts himself very, very close now to the back end of the 295 of Cthulhu. Saxy still chasing him for position as we head out through turn 20. Cam he's seriously under attack here. Let's not take that away. I think this is going to be quite a few battles that take us all the way to the race finish here. Let's try and catch on board, though, with what's going on up front, just as we see them make their way out of Sector 1 into Sector 2. Now, Valet is 0.7 of a second ahead of Slivisio, but Sly's gone very late on the brakes there to bring that gap down to 0.5 of a second. That's 0.4 now as they head down the back straight of this circuit. Valet's having a dart across the circuit here to try and break the toe of that Ferrari. This could very well lead to a move on the horizon here. Valet's going to be the one on the defense here. Sly's getting ever closer. 0.1 of a second here as we see going into turn 12. Slivisio's very nearly put the nose of that Ferrari up against the McLaren. Better late than never, I imagine, here, because these two are right on each other. And really, it is anyone's race between these two. You can never tell when this is going to go next. Through turn 16, now to turn 17 and 18. It looks to be Valet towards the line for the win. We just cannot tell at this point. It could very well be Sly. It could be Valet. Now as we head down towards turn 19 and 24, the second time going, is it going to be 2 for 2 for Valet? As we head down towards turn 20, Sly is still within 0.3 of a second as we head towards the line. Second time going, so it seems. It's 2 for 2 for Valet. Another win in the Circuit of the Americas. But we're not done just yet because we still have a few more battles left to go here for the line. Ricky Cross is in third, Toothless in fourth, same result as last time. But let's get a look at some of these battles going on here as Saxy from 10th position looks to be holding off Chris. Now out at 1.3 seconds. Osmad is looking to try and get a move in fairly soonish on the car ahead of him, that being Cthulhu. It's down to the line and it will be 8th and 9th for Cthulhu and Osmad. So if we take a look around here, I think that is the bulk of our battles out of the way. Actually, I say that. This is where it comes down to Shamian versus Cam here in the battle of P19. Heading down towards turn 19, now to turn 20. A bold defense from the number 67. Shamian very nearly had him for the inside there at turn 20. The Mustang takes 18th. Shamian in a reluctant 19th position. Ido crosses the line, a reluctant 25th. A far cry of his result in the first race of 2 today. Looking around the grid, Adept loser in 22nd for Honda towards the line now. There's Skybang, the number 33, finishing a very happy P7. So we wait to see the final result of everything. Winning drivers and winning categories and whatnot. There is a show of force from the Novasport team. It's a solid race. Plenty of happy scores here today for the Novasport team. After thick and thin here, the Circuit of the Americas, they'll be happy to take away the points that they've got. Valet wins yet again overall and yet again in Pro. 2 for 2 for Valet. Utterly dominant performance the Valet way. Another win in the Pro-Am category for Toothless. He's had 2 for 2, leading in Pro-Am with that Joker. It's been a fantastic round for him as well. 2 podiums for Ricky, mind you, as well. And with that Joker enabled, definitely going to be some heavy points coming through for round 6. Leading then in Pro, not in Pro-Am, or Pro for that matter, Am, I should say, is again Mustard 27. A very solid result today. For Valet, it has been the strongest of races. That is really, we've seen firsthand what we mean by the Valet way now. And in honour of Valet's 2 for 2 victory, we only have to play 1 national anthem. We don't have 2 different nations winning these races. Overall, it's Valet through and through here at the Circuit of the Americas. No one else could do that, not on his day. So, we present to you, in honour of Valet's double victory, the national anthem of his host nation, Australia. And for those of you still tuning in after the national anthem, we're happy to announce our next stream will be this coming Sunday afternoon for the NLRL Console Endurance Series transfer window. Plenty of interviews on the way from teams such as MSA and Euro Titans. Do tune in for that. We do look forward to seeing you again very, very soon here on TRTN. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful rest of your day from wherever in the world you're tuning in from. Have a lovely evening, a lovely morning and a lovely day. Good night.